will be in person. So anyway, the last time we'll be in this format. So I guess the first thing we need to do with the group is if we could have everyone introduce themselves, and that gives us a chance to take attendance. I am Alan Burrow, the chairman of Bill K, coming to you from rainy and cloudy Northern Illinois, which is a big weather change from what we've had the last few months. So we'll try to pick someone. I'm going to go to Karen Sheelers on the upper corner. If you introduce yourself, Karen.
Hi, everybody. My name is Karen Sheeler. I'm with Compeer Financial, coming to you from Hayworth, Illinois, also rainy and cloudy and soggy.
Okay, try and move through the tiles. I'll let Dean go last. Mike, you want to introduce yourself?
Okay, I'm Mike Zecker, normally from Western Illinois, Mercer County, but coming to you today from Knoxville, Tennessee, thanks to a courtesy hotel room.
All right. Very good. Dr. Steve Steele. Oh, you're on mute there.
I'm Steve Still, Assistant Professor of Agriculture Education at Southern Illinois University.
Morning. Oh, I see Kay's there. Oh, Kay, you're on mute. Okay, I think we got Kay Shipman on there. I think trying to unmute. I see you're waving it. Okay. All right, she's good. John Heiser.
John Heiser, FCAE District 1.
Okay. Mindy.
Good morning, Mindy Bunselmeyer, Illinois FFA Center.
Okay, Luke.
Guessing you're going Luke Allen. Hi, everybody.
Yes, sir.
Allen, District 2 FCAE.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Amy Shasteen.
Yeah, Amy Shasteen with Farm Credit Illinois, coming to you from also rainy Mahomet today.
Good. Jeff Golly.
Yeah, Jeff Golly, Pittsfield, cloudy and rainy here. Coordinator and professor of the Ag Business Management Program at Illinois College, Jacksonville.
Okay, thank you. I'm still going to call him Mr. Dietz. Oop. Mr. Dietz, you're on mute there. If you want to say hello, get on. There you go.
Oh, this is Al Dietz. I'm a retired ag teacher, originally from Ashton, and yeah, we're dang glad to have all this rain coming by finally. And Mike, you said you're in Nashville. I got home from there at 10 o'clock last night. Don't do too much on Broadway.
Unfortunately, we're just passing through, so.
All right, Megan.
Good morning, Megan Coy, District 4 FCAE Program Advisor.
All right, I see Greg Webb in the lower left corner.
Yeah, thank you, Alan. Greg Webb with ADM coming to you from Chicago today, and Mother Nature is covering much of the state with rain.
Dave Catron. Oh, got you on mute there, Dave.
There we go. No?
Yep. Oh, just about had it. One more time.
Mute.
There you are. We got you right there. We got you. Go ahead.
Well, it says we're muted. Anyway, finally got it to work. Good morning, Alan.
Good morning. Morning. Casey Boland.
Good morning, I'm Casey Boland, District 5 FCAE Program Advisor.
Okay, thank you. Warren Graff.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I was driving from Bloomington to Champaign in that downpour yesterday afternoon, but today I'm sitting in my office in St. Louis. I work for Midland States Bank. Pleasure to be with the group.
Good morning. Lucas Maxwell.
Good morning, everyone. Lucas Maxwell, Assistant Professor and Program Coordinator for Ag Education at Illinois State University.
Very good. Tyler Strom, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Illinois Agri-Food Alliance, hour west of Chicago and Campton Hills, where it's also raining.
All right. And one of our featured guests today, Dr. Anna Ball.
Good morning, everyone. Anna Ball, Associate Dean for Academic Programs in the College of ACES at the University of Illinois.
Thanks for joining us this morning. Representative Don Moffitt.
Good morning. Western Illinois has not been left out on the rain. It's drizzling, and we've been benefited from rain for several inches over several days. Some storms hit south. You probably heard around Abington and southern Knox County. Retired state legislator, full-time volunteer on the home farm. Good to be with you.
Morning. It's like we had Doug Hanson there.
Good morning, coming out of Iroquois County, Ashcombe today. Took 3 forms of technology just to be able to still not know if I'm with you guys, but at least Alan recognized me. Looking forward to today's meeting. Pro Harvest Seeds, and I do serve on both OK and IK.
All right, I'm gonna move around a little bit. Kim Haywood.
Hey, good morning. Kim Haywood, ag teacher at Lovejoy Academy in Brooklyn, Illinois.
Good morning. Okay, some of the speakers that will be on, Patrick and Jessica are on the call, Jesse Faber as well, and Cindy McDermott. So if any of you want to introduce yourselves, if you're lined up right now, go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jessica Narduli. I work with Phelps Berry, the lobbying firm.
Good morning,
Patrick,
everyone. Good morning. It's Patrick with Barry and Barry Phelps and Associates, your lobbyists. I'm on here with, I believe Asia's also on here.
Okay. Mindy.
Good morning, everyone. We are getting ready to get some of that rain, and I have satellite internet, so my video is off so that you can hear me. I come to you from Bayer Crop Sciences Digital Ag Division, the Climate Corporation, and pleased to be here. I also abstain from any votes that relate to CEC or cutting edge curriculum and mycart.com.
And if any of you are on Facebook today, there's an outstanding video of Mindy for the Climate Corporation. I got to see this morning with her and her husband and kids. It's outstanding.
Thank you. It was fun.
All right. Yeah.
Alan, I
Jesse
did get
Faber.
unmuted here.
There you go. Hi, Jesse.
Oh, yeah, Jesse Faber, agriculture teacher at Pontiac High School, as well as the chair of the Illinois Ag Legislative Committee, coming to you today from Pontiac and also in transit headed towards Lee County at some point this morning.
Okay. All right. You'll be at the bottom end. I'm up top. So, all right. And I see Asia Gentry joined. And we just jumped out of the way. There you are.
Good morning. Hello.
All right. Okay. Is there anybody I missed? I was scrolling through the tiles here. I just want to make sure I don't miss anybody inadvertently. Okay. All right. Well, thanks everybody for being on. We finally got that rainy day that we needed to be inside and get some things done. I've been way behind on my task list. So looking forward to our meeting. Again, we'll try to be done at noon here today.
Alan, don't forget Dean.
Yes, that's right.
Hey, that's okay, Warren. I'll be talking enough today, but Dean Dittmar, coordinator for FCAE, but thanks.
All right. So with that, we'll get a little bit of housekeeping out of the way. The meeting minutes are on the agenda. If you've got the Google Doc up, and if you want to look at that, if you already had, I'd entertain a motion to approve our March 26th meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman, Webb would so move.
All right, Greg Webb's there a second?
A second.
Okay, Kim Haywood's got a second. The minutes are up if you need a review. Otherwise, I'd entertain a vote. All in favor, say aye or thumbs up or indicate a positive.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Minutes approved. Public comment is on there. If there's anything, I guess, that isn't part of the agenda or anything from the prior meeting that requires any discussion, we could entertain that at the moment. Okay, Okay, we've got just a couple small old business items before we get into a couple of the presentations that are new business. Just as reference, we're still awaiting nomination of our concurrent ILK members to IK. I don't think there's any significant update, but just keep you aware of kind of the situation we're in. The Becky Rock replacement is Karen Sheeler's done her part, at least for the process of being nominated to IK, and then also Kim Haywood and Amy Shastine's terms are up, but are still being allowed to serve on IK, and I assume at some point the governor's office will reach out and get them part of the process. The other item under old business, the Ag Ed 365 Advocacy Fund is funded through July, so I believe that keeps us current, and it seems like they've been doing an outstanding job of keeping up with that, so that's a good sign. So with that, we'll move on to
just a quick update, Alan, too. I haven't talked to Karen or Kim or Amy recently, maybe in the last few weeks. Have the three of you heard any communication at all?
I have not heard any communication or received any emails or anything at this point, no.
Same here. I haven't heard anything.
Same.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your patience, and hopefully we'll get some movement on that here sometime soon. So, okay, anything else, Dean, before we go into the legislative update?
You're good.
Okay. All right. So as they introduce themselves, we have our lobbyist and Jesse Faber as well along on the call this morning. So we're looking forward to the update on all the goings on in Springfield.
Jesse, do you want me to start or do you want to start?
I was just going to, well, I'm going to toss it to you. So yeah, I'll go ahead and introduce. And I want to say thank you to everybody here on ILK, and excited to be here with the whole crew. It's a nice thing to make that work. And so we've had a good session. I'll kind of preface with that. Things have gone well for Illinois Ag Education, but I'm going to turn it over to them and probably finish some things up after they're done. So have at it, Patrick.
Thanks, Jesse. To kind of piggyback on what Jesse said, I think we had a very successful session, especially considering the environment that we were in, i.e. COVID, and other new factors in the legislature. And we've discussed these before, but I'd be remiss not to at least touch on the fact that we had changeover in the last year and a half of 3 of the 4 leaders, a new speaker starting this year. We had President Don Harmon last year, and then also this year, a new minority leader in the Senate, leader Dan McConkey. So Jim Durkin, the House leader, minority leader, is now the dean of the 4 caucuses, which is, pretty unbelievable when you think about it. Other mitigating factors, obviously, this year outside of COVID and a lot of new faces and new processes because of those turnovers, was the remap. So every 10 years, everybody knows that, we go through the remap process in Illinois to re-gerrymander the state from not only the state house level, but the congressional level as well. And then also this time around, they re-gerrymandered the Supreme Court, which was something that I don't believe has ever happened. So all of those factors in play, plus COVID, and the fact that last year there really wasn't a session and very little was accomplished. We had over 7,000 bills filed in both chambers. The House assigned every bill to a committee, which caused a lot of work and a lot of chaos because we were virtual for the bulk of those committee hearings. However, in dealing with all of that, we were still able to push our initiatives. Every single one of our initiatives passed, and we got our full $5 million Ag Ed line item. So I think it was a successful session from the perspective of knowing all of the factors that we had to deal with. Our team was in the Capitol as soon as the COVID tests were allowed and entry. The University of Illinois and their saliva test. Our team took that saliva test 3 days a week as soon as it was offered, and wherever we were able to maneuver around the Capitol and see members on a face-to-face meeting, which is always a better way to do it than through Zoom or on a phone call. And we were very active with that. So with that, I know Jessica's on the phone. I thought, Jess, do you have anything you might want to add?
Thanks, Pat. You can see in your agenda the legislation that we advocated for this year. And some of these bills, particularly the bill about allowing you to put kids in trucks, is something that you've been pushing for years. So I think, again, I don't know if I need to go, I know we've gone through these bills before, so I don't know if I need to do it again, but please, give it any questions, don't hesitate. But again, we had a really successful session. All of these bills are being sent to the governor's office. So now our efforts begin to advocate for them with the administration.
Jessica, this is Dean. I would suggest, I've got that up on the screen here right now. Maybe go through this one a little bit more as far as the truck bill and the school transportation. We've talked about it, but I don't know for sure if everyone fully understands what now has happened, because we've been trying for quite a long time.
Yeah, thanks, Dean, for the question. This is a really exciting one that got bipartisan support in the General Assembly. So before, as best I understand it, if you had a project that needed to be transported with a truck, particularly when you're pulling a trailer, kids weren't under state law allowed to also be in that truck, is because it's not a sanctioned vehicle under the transportation code. You'd have to put kids in maybe some sort of a short bus, or I'm trying to think of the name of the car you used to teach kids how to drive, that car. And you'd have to take 2 trips or have 2 separate drivers. Now you can put those kids in seat belts in those trucks and make 1 trip. So that took a lot of advocating for, to work with the Secretary of State's office and the Department of Education, but we got there, we got it done. And once it's signed into law, that's going to be a really exciting change for a lot of you in your schools. Any other questions?
And we've talked about the ILCA membership changes, but again, there still will be 3 coming from the Illinois Leadership Council for Ag Education, and then 3 from business and industry. No, for sure.
That's correct. Yep.
And again, this will take place, Jessica, Patrick, once the governor signs, correct?
Yeah, I believe it had an immediate effective date, Dean.
I think for me, one of the things that I wanted to add, particularly that the truck bill was one that just had a lot. There seemed to be some controversy, and I don't know that there was really controversy. I think that Jeff Meyerhofer was the ag teacher that brought the issue to us, and it wasn't even necessarily. And I guess this is one clarification. It was that different schools interpreted the current state law differently, and so this really locked that in. But I don't know how many times he was signed up to testify, and then finally he was able to. And the biggest objection was that they thought we were trying to advocate for letting students ride in the beds of pickup trucks, which was never the intention. And so now we do have that clarified. There's another piece of legislation in there that we are very excited about in terms of clarifying the tuition one. And so I guess I kind of wanted to throw it, because as Patrick and Jessica and Aisha took that one through, even the introduction of it really opened up some good conversations with some of our other partners that didn't even realize the issue we had. So I'm going to ask them to talk just a little bit about that too.
Yeah, I can dive into that as well a little bit. We had introduced this bill, and I guess I'm looking at it's the University Admissions Requirements bills on your agenda. We introduced these before COVID, and before COVID, we had the opportunity to sit down with some representatives from Illinois State University, and in having a conversation with them, like Jesse said, they didn't realize the issue we were having, and so Illinois State actually corrected this issue before becoming law. So we have a lot of willing partners in our universities to get this done. I know the University of Illinois talked with us about this as well, and even slipped in support of the bill. So this is going to be clarifying now on the university web pages that agricultural sciences are one of those courses that qualify for the science credit.
And core elective. So as it looks, it was both in the world of science and agri-science, as well as, I believe, where it says kind of the music foreign or the fine arts, foreign language, and agriculture as far as that group. Now, a school still can have their standalone, which I know University of Illinois still has their separated foreign language one. But the other ones, like Illinois State, it says fine arts, foreign language, and now hopefully agriculture as well fits into there.
And we've got some university representatives on the call then as well. What's the timeline? How quickly does this happen between the governor's office and then individuals getting in touch with the university admissions offices to update their records?
If you look at the 4 universities, Dean, that we have here in Illinois, and to I guess use that as if you look at their undergraduate admissions pages, currently Illinois State University has already changed theirs. Western doesn't have any of them listed as it stands right now. Like Western, if you look at their admissions page, it doesn't have any recommended or required, like it doesn't list out individual content areas at all. Same thing, University of Illinois doesn't really list specifically individual content areas on their general admissions page. And Southern's, I don't think Southern's is as specific as what ISU's is either. I don't think it's as vague as what the other two are, but I think it's somewhere in between. And so as we look at it, it's also that piece of communications. But I guess the other part of this and the longer story that won't necessarily go into the details if someone wants. This bill was put forward kind of through a recommendation from a meeting with the head of undergraduate admissions from U of I. With this change, we're going to reach out again there and make that contact because this change helps them be partners with us in going to the NCAA. So this was done as a piece to hopefully help build that partnership to go with us with the NCAA as well.
I had a question really quick. Was that what BSAA was supposed to do, or was that one of its purposes?
Yes, and what happened, yes, both BSA and PSA had done that, and I think, and I'm going to go back, it's, about 25 years ago as there was the push, but basically over the last 15 years-ish, and perhaps several folks from FCAE could be better on that timeline, is that the NCAA started kind of picking off schools one at a time, taking away the recognition of BSAA as a lab science credit for NCAA purposes. And so in looking at it, one of the challenges that we have in Illinois, once again, one of the phrases that can be frustrating when using this context of local control is that then NCAA had the ability to individually, where they could look at one school and approve BSA and another one and and deny it. And so this is kind of a whole scale idea of looking at it. With that, that's an NCAA, which really only impacts those that are wanting to be inter athletes. It doesn't really impact those that don't. However, it seems like that seems to be a thing that people pay attention to. Currently, BSAA is recognized, at least to my knowledge, BSAA is being recognized by all the universities as a high school science course when students apply there. So this is to help strengthen that. I also know Mr. Heiser's on here from FCAE and is working with a group looking at an ag biology course as well. And hopefully this is something that can kind of bring it all and move it together again in that manner.
Which maybe Jesse leads to, and Al and I were talking as well, as far as depending if there's other questions here yet too, as far as the IABAT Legislative Committee next steps. And one of those would be then making contact with NCA to strengthen that relationship, that agricultural education, agricultural science courses would be counted for NCA eligibility approval for their athletes.
That's actually one of our next steps, is to try, and once these get signed, to go ahead and reach out and see if we can get a letter of contact with us. Yeah, so that's one of the next steps coming. If there's any other questions on that, feel free to ask those. One thing that I want to do, because I know that we are having this meeting, and I feel like since the firm changed, I would like if Patrick and Jessica and Asia, if you'd be willing to go ahead and kind of introduce yourselves with what your role is and kind of what that looks like as part of the firm since you've come into. And I guess I'm going to ask Patrick, is it Phelps Berry or Berry Phelps, Patrick?
It's Phelps, Berry and Associates.
But you're right, Jesse. He misspoke when he introduced himself at the beginning of the meeting.
Oh, did I put my name first?
You sure did.
Well, good thing my partner's not on the phone.
Patrick, why don't you go first?
Sure. Patrick Berry, I am one of the partners in Phelps, Berry and Associates. We were part of a different firm just a year ago, formed a new firm in January with myself, Brandon Phelps, and then our associates, which would be Jessica Narduli, who's on the phone, and Asia Gentry. We hit the ground running and took you guys on. It really wasn't a change for you. It was basically just change in the name. And we've been happy and proud to represent you ever since.
And I'm Jessica Narduli. I've been keeping my video off because of some Wi-Fi issues, but
I have the same. That's what's going on with me too.
Yeah. So I work with Patrick, Brandon Phelps, and Asia. I don't like saying it like this, but Brandon does. He calls me the attorney of the group. I did go to law school and get my law degree, and I'm using it to lobby. So I really get into the details with the legislation, and I've been doing it for about 10 years, and really have enjoyed getting to know you guys as a group, Jesse in particular, and getting involved with ag issues. I haven't grown up on a farm myself, but it's certainly part of my family's history. We have a Centennial farm in Logan County, and I'm really proud to be involved with agricultural issues. Nice to work with all of you.
Hi, I'm Asia Gentry. I also, like Patrick said, came over with the firm, and so change in the name, but not necessarily a change in our group's dynamic or how we serve you. I am technically the legislative director, so I keep us all on track. Before working with Patrick, sorry, I dropped my pen. Before working with Patrick and Brandon, I was a Senate staffer. So I worked with Senator Tony Munoz for a couple of years. I particularly love this group because prior to that, I was a social worker and worked a lot with kids, and that's really where my passion is. This is an incredible group of kids. And so I'm happy to be able to advocate for them and advance this industry to help them in the future.
Okay. Well, it's been a pleasure to work with you. We appreciate your participation with our meetings and the work you do for us and for Ag Education in Springfield. So is there anything else with the presentation, the update this morning? Does anyone have any questions for any of the folks that just introduced themselves from the firm? Okay. Anything else, Jesse, from IABAT?
I guess I don't know that from IABAT side, but from the legislative side, anybody who would like to be part of the legislative committee or beginning those updates, please let me know or let Alan or Dean know, and we can get you definitely added to that list. We very much enjoy doing that. There are a few other, we've had some great interactions that way. I know that one of the things that we didn't talk, which is a comforting thing almost, where we didn't really talk budget, but we are level funded, and I think that that's a great thing. And I think there are some conversations being had right now to see if we're at a place to where we're looking to go ahead and maybe increase our ask for the next fiscal year. So that's something we're kind of looking at, and are going to be collecting that information and having those discussions in August and September of this year. So we do have the other one, the internship program that we passed a couple of years ago. That RFP, I believe, has been awarded. And so for summer of 2022, we'll have a pre-service internship in place for 8 pre-service teachers.
All right. Well, very good. Thanks so much for being on the call this morning and taking the time to give us your backgrounds and what you're doing for us. And as far as the budget goes, that is going to be on our agenda at our next meeting as well, sort of looking forward to FY23. And ultimately, the growth of the 3 circle grants is going to probably require us to do a little bigger ask after the big bump to $5 million a few years ago. We're finally growing into and maybe even out of that. So we'll be talking. The legislative calls with Jesse's committee, the IABAT legislative committee, are really good. The information flows really well. He's very passionate about what he does. It's always enjoyable if you've got an issue or want to participate. They're very welcoming to do that. So thanks so much for the update from all of you. And we're going to roll on to our next topic. Just briefly going to hit on our future meeting dates, just so everyone's aware. While we've got everyone on the call here at the front end, our next meeting will be Thursday, September 2nd, from noon until 4, and that'll be indicator concurrently with Farm Progress Show. We will have lunch at noon, and then the meeting starting more or less at that time, probably working through lunch, getting the meeting going. The last time we did it at the community college, just right across from the show site there, and we intend to do that. We will have a location update, and that will be a live meeting. So, if you intend to attend the Farm Progress Show, you can hit that in the morning and then join us for the meeting in the afternoon, have you back on the road after 4 o'clock. And the meeting after that will be our December annual meeting. And right now that's tentatively scheduled for December 10th, which is a Friday. We're going to shoot for a location somewhere in the middle part of the state, and we'll update you. That again will be a live meeting as well. So with that as well, you can see the IK meeting schedule. We're kind of off their schedule a little bit, so we'll be meeting July 9th virtually, and then September, and then again in November, possibly a live meeting. So we'll probably talk a little bit about the royalty account, some of the other things down agenda a little bit, and maybe an update. So Dean, anything on that?
One thing that too, that we had talked about a little bit in the past, and was even going to maybe form a committee on, but IK did talk to ISBE. Andrew Klein is not available today. He's still on guard duty. He'll be back on Saturday and then back in the office on Monday. But it was decided that the FCA project had to stay as a grant versus a contract. And that was indication from ISBE. So again, that was a discussion we had in the past, but as of right now, the FCA project will be a grant. And again, we are looking at that new RFP going to be out late this fall by ISBE for looking for a new fiscal agent and or the existing fiscal agent with Parkland College.
All right. So, you know, I touched briefly also a little bit about the $5 million line item. Jesse noted that as well. So we'll have some discussion down agenda about the curriculum situation, the platform provider, as that relates to that. A little bit of that discussion went on during IK, and we'll probably tie that together when we get down to that. I think there'll be a little more meat in that discussion. So I want to move on, and I'll let Dean introduce our next speaker that's joining us on our third topic this morning.
Sure, and to introduce the topic, again, we have discussed this at past ILK meetings as far as the feasibility of partnering with an entity, an institution in the District 2 area, again, Luke Allen's area of the state, Cook County and Chicago area, to possibly establish an urban agricultural education teacher degree program to help with our supply and demand, really our supply of high school ag teachers across the state. And to introduce this just a little bit, I'm going to just show you some data that we have before I introduce Anna Ball. But our current supply and demand, if you can see what I have here as far as sharing my screen, is that we have data going back all the way to, I'll show you here up at the top, the late 90s, mid 90s, 92, 93. And I've highlighted the far right column there. And then maybe you can look as far as the number of openings that we've had across the state then as well. But agricultural education graduates on the far right side in that yellow column, that we've had 12, we've been as high as 37 in 1998 and 1999. And then the number prior to that is the number that chose to teach their first year. Now, again, we're not keeping track of those that then went into their second year that might have gone to grad school. We haven't tracked those, so they could be a little bit higher as far as the overall average of the number of student teachers that majored in agricultural education and student taught. But again, our 29-year average right now is 436 out of 721, which is roughly 60% taking an agricultural education teaching position their first year. Down below, again, our numbers look good for this year. Again, we had 36 graduates, as you can see, and those that were projected are actual numbers from each of the institutions. We also do have Illinois College at Quincy, Jacksonville area. Penny Haas-Whitler is helping us there as the ag ed professor at Illinois College. So really we have 5. Again, there are probably 3 or 4 individuals, students that are currently in agricultural education that will hopefully be going and graduating with an ag ed degree at Illinois College. That's why you see it as blue. But again, we have no actual graduates yet. So knowing the number of openings that we've had across the state over the last number of years, we're currently at 66. We have 53 of those filled at this point. Just to give you a little bit as far as the numbers and so on, this number is 6 as far as provisional. Yes, it is low, but again, we expect that to grow a little bit more due to the fact that 36 of those 36 that we've had as far as ag ed graduates this year in May do not have jobs. So already 30 of them have taken jobs. So to fill the potential 13 that we have left to fill, is probably going to take some provisional candidates here this next few months, and or individuals that maybe have an ag ed degree. So again, that's a little bit of a challenge yet for us as far as filling those. One promising piece, but it is a challenge for us as well, is the column as far as the number of additional teachers to programs. So that currently stands at 19. So what that means is that we've had one single teacher, and we've added a teacher to that single teacher program to be a multiple or a multi-teacher program. Some of the reasons there is that, yes, the growth of agricultural education, the need for food courses, mechanics courses, ag business courses, horticulture, and so on, but also the lack of teachers in the other CTE areas, say, for instance, for family consumer science, business, and really industrial tech. So with not having as many students graduating from the four-year universities in those areas, then schools are coming to us as far as agricultural education to potentially add ag mechanics courses, ag business courses, instead of losing those types of programs as far as CTE. So you see that number high there then as well. So those are a few statistics there then as well. And Dr. Ball and I put a few things together, and maybe I'll share a few things with you then here also as to the need for in the area of District 2 as far as increasing the number of candidates with a degree or with a degree in agricultural education. And I know that Luke hopefully will be part of the discussion here then as well to kind of give you an idea as far as what it is kind of a challenge to grow programs in that part of the state, and then potentially then not have enough quality individuals to be able to fill those positions. So what we wanted to do is introduce Dr. Anna Ball. And Dr. Anna Ball is with us with the College of ACES. She's currently the Associate Dean for Academic Programs. She does have an agricultural education degree, and helped us out as well as on staff at the College of ACES as the agricultural education professor. So I'm going to turn it on over to Dr. Ball to kind of give us a little bit of an idea as to what do you think of this idea? Is there a possibility of a partnership with the University of Illinois, possibly with the University of Illinois at Chicago or other institutions in that part of the state that would allow us to possibly grow the number of teachers in that part of the state and not then have a challenge for the other universities across the state, meaning our four that do have, because again, we don't want to decrease their enrollment either, but we believe that there are some challenges, but also some definite opportunities to possibly help make this happen. So with that, I'm going to introduce Dr. Anna Ball.
Thanks, Dean. It's good to be a part of this conversation. I don't have really a specific set of direct items that I want to share here today, but what I want to do is really engage in a listening session from this group. Talk about some of the challenges, talk about some of the opportunities around this, see if we can't perhaps proceed to wrapping our brains around workable solutions to this problem. You know, certainly, Dean, you and I had a fantastic conversation around some of these really high level issues a couple of weeks ago, and talked about the challenges around any of these interinstitutional partnerships. You know, they can be done, but there are some specific challenges. And I think, you know, this is an opportunity, particularly with other teacher educators here on the call today, you know, and with ag teachers across the state on the call, to think about what might be this right mix. And potentially our next step could be forming a committee to get some workable solutions created here. But a couple of the things that really keep me up at night, I'll just start with some of my major challenges and passion areas and things that keep me up at night around this. The first thing is the 4 institutions in the state of Illinois in teacher preparation, now 5. So that was exciting. I didn't know about the Illinois College in Jacksonville program. So the 5 institutions in Illinois standing in solidarity around this notion of teacher preparation in agriculture and agroscience. I'm assuming that the other institutions have been talking a lot about strategic enrollment management issues coming up in the near future. So what our data indicates at the University of Illinois, that by 2025, we will be facing a demographic cliff, is what they're calling it. And what that means is that the eligible 18-year-olds in the state of Illinois, in the Midwest in general, we don't have them. We don't have that population growth. And by the year 2025, they indicate that that is going to decline to the point that it's going to look like enrollments at our institutions dropping off of a cliff. And so we really have to think about, as we open up new programs, we have to think very strategically about what enrollment means and how we can maintain our numbers, maintain our populations, create new populations. Essentially, what we don't want to do is rob Peter to pay Paul here. And so that might lead us into some conversations around, okay, if we know this is happening, if we know that our population of 18-year-olds is declining in that traditional undergraduate space, is there room for alternative pathways to certification? Can our institutions think about going after the 35-year-old, the 40-year-old who might want a career change? Are there some alternative ways that we can think about having really rigorous programs, still very solid programs, but that we might be targeting different groups that might be more likely to join us as well? I don't think this is an or, I think it's an and, by the way. The other thing that I get really fired up and passionate about is my unabashed ag school bias. And so I think anytime we talk about these partnerships, we have to think about the ability of institutions to offer the content. So in those of you who are experts in teacher prep, I know that I'm preaching to the choir here, but you know that the 3 essential elements of preparing teachers is, number 1, preparing them for content expertise, preparing them for pedagogy expertise, and then preparing them for pedagogical content expertise, which is understanding how to teach in your specific content area. So teaching math is different than teaching agriculture, which is different than teaching English, okay? So what we need to think about are programs where we're absolutely able to offer that agri-science and related content. That doesn't mean it needs to be traditional agriculture. It can be around sustainability, around the environment, around urban agriculture, around all of the content areas that we're growing into as a profession. However, we still have to think very solidly about programs that can offer that agriculture as we define it content. The third area that and this is an area that I'm sure keeps all of you up at night as well, is the supply issue. Dean talked about this with his data, the supply issue of our teachers. And the problem with the supply issue is that if we look at the data across the nation, particularly in industrial technology education, they had a supply issue as well, right? About 30 years ago now, they had a real supply issue. That supply issue eventually became a demand issue. Programs started closing because they couldn't maintain the supply. Then what happened is that teacher prep programs started closing because there wasn't a supply or a demand. I don't think any of us want to ever go down that path. And so that's why we're having this conversation today. So with that, I wanted to start with those 3 kind of key areas of concern, and then just open this up to the entire group to offer thoughts, suggestions, challenges, positives, negatives, any questions you have for me or for Dean as we, I guess, proceed to a workable solution here. Greg's got a hand raised.
Dr. Ball, thank you for those initial thoughts, and love that you're thinking about this in a way that recognizes what the current situation is, but also I have had some conversation and heard you talk about a differentiated kind of a education before for folks who may not fit the typical college age of 18 to 24, but that we ought to be thinking about this in a way that invites people for a need. My question for you and then for Dean as well, because I like your attitude here about the strategic, we got to be thoughtful and strategic about this. Dean, I love that chart you just put up, a kind of about the supply and demand of teachers. But as I think about those needs, that's kind of on a keeping our programs kind of static here with a little bit of growth. And if we know that we need to grow much more substantively than that, because our ability to connect with kids is still only in that 10-ish or so % of all students being educated in Illinois via ag education, then do we have kind of a breakdown of what to anticipate? So in the more granular, do we have teachers who are 5 years from retirement? Do we have a chunk that are 25 years, so that we kind of can anticipate not only where we stand in terms of longevity, but then how we plan for that in future for programs that we surely want to incite and incent to develop in particularly urban areas?
And Dr. Ball, do you want to take that first, or you want me to?
I'll let you take that.
Well, again, we do have data as far as the age of the teacher. So again, I'd have to go back to the chart there and figure the percentage of retirements that we do have. But again, really, our teachers, if you look at, we had our Ag Teachers Conference last week.
Dean, we are at 34% of our ag teachers are 30 or under, and 18% are over the age of 50.
So thank you, Luke, for that data immediately. But again, if you look through the area of the ballroom at SIU at Carbondale, my feelings is that we're very young. We're a very young profession. And Luke made mention of that, even though 18% are over 50, you're still looking at potentially 5 to 10 years of those individuals that would still be teaching before total retirement. So I'm going to have Luke here talk here for a second about the need in his area, especially as far as starting ag programs. But Greg, you're exactly correct that if we don't talk about the challenge of the supply of agri-science teachers, then we continually are just kind of in maintenance mode. And I, as even a program advisor, would go when we would start up programs, but we wouldn't spend too much time on that because we knew that we didn't have enough supply, because the next question that superintendent or principal would ask would be, okay, do you have that type of person that is going to then apply for the position once we open up a new program? And twofold with this as well that I talked to Dr. Ball about is, and we as a staff have talked about this, University Council has talked about this as well, is that our agriculture programs are not in areas of school districts with a diverse population. And business and industry continually talk to us about increasing our diverse populations. So that's kind of the discussion here, as to potentially move in that part of the state that has that larger percentage of a diverse population, and getting into those schools with school-based agricultural education, and then providing an avenue for them, because they potentially wouldn't go to school downstate in hopes of reaching a different population that wouldn't even consider moving to University of Illinois, Illinois State, Southern, Western Illinois College for an ag ed degree. And again, looking at a different population, or a population that would be looking at something like this, urban agricultural education, and saying, hey, this is something for me. And then they want to go back and stay in that part of the state as well. Because many times even, and I'll let the universities, kind of maybe elaborate on this a little bit more too, is that we may have them stay for a time period, but they then will move to maybe their hometown school or whatever that may not be in that part of the state. So Luke, could you quickly, give a synopsis as far as trying to open up programs and then in your part of the state, and then the challenge that it is as far as potentially filling them with a quality candidate?
Most of my data is anecdotal, so I don't have any hard evidence. So you have a couple of things that we're facing. One is, like Dean said, it can be a bit of a culture shock to move from Schaumburg, Orland Park, Chicago to Macomb or Jacksonville or whatever, even Urbana. So it can be a challenge for many students to make that change. And so, I'll use the evidence of students from Chicago Ag. They don't keep many of their students in state. So a lot of their kids end up going to city colleges and then transferring somewhere else, or they go directly out of state. I think of our friend Bayer, who hired a Chicago graduate through University of Kentucky. She went on a Manners trip to University of Kentucky and saw their Manners program, and they recruited her 2 summers to do an internship, and now she's doing research in Waterman. And so there's lots of things that pull people out. We know a lot of those issues, but the culture change of moving from an urban area to outside of that can be a challenge. That's number one. Number two, it's the perspective of agriculture itself. People's perceptions or misperceptions of agriculture can change how they perceive a University of Illinois or a Western or an Illinois State. I'm just naming them all and clumping them all together. And so how they perceive agriculture and how they perceive the traditional ag programs offered at those universities can have an influence in their decision. I took ag teachers on a tour on Monday and Tuesday of 4 schools in Section 8 who are doing a lot of school-based food production. Thousands of pounds a year of food at the school. None of them have an approved ag. Well, one of the 4 had an approved ag program, and the kids are very, very interested in the sustainability and the environmental connection and the connection to food and nutrition and health. And they don't connect that. They think agronomy when they think of U of I or Western or any of the schools. They think of the traditional agriculture modes. So we're overcoming that barrier. And so back to one of the points that was raised earlier, what do we want our system to output? Do we want our system of ag ed, the traditional 3-circle model, to be the only system that we have, the only model we have that grows, and we grow it incrementally, and that's going to be almost impossible to do, to scale to what you're wanting to accomplish? Or do we try to develop a second model and embrace less traditional, less 3-circle model, and bring in more environmental science teachers, more connection to sustainability, to foods and nutrition, to whatever, all the other areas that are tangential to traditional agriculture? And how much do you want to grow into those other frays to reach people? So it's not my decision to make. I try to grow it wherever I can. I've got a dozen schools in Section 8 alone that aren't approved ag programs by the State Board of Ed's definition, but they're doing something in ag education. They're doing classroom instruction or something, but they may not be an approved ag program with the 3-circle model for various reasons. So it's lots of different reasons. I'm happy. This is like a day-long conversation. It's hard to break it down in such a short period of time.
So Luke, I was taking notes while you were talking. This was really helpful. I really appreciate your comments. Is it okay if I summarize what I thought I just heard here, and you let me know if I'm on target here? So we're really, what we're talking about are different models, right? Different, potentially, I call them pathways, but I think you maybe said models. So one of the pathways that could matter is place. So place-based kind of pathways. Although you did say that, like Chaz, which we know this about Chaz, they send their students all out of state and to places where, that would be that's interesting about place, because they'll go out of state, but they won't stay in state. 2 hours south is not a pathway for them, but potentially 6 hours south to Kentucky is. So that's different story, but place-based pathways. So some sort of a program that lets them study in place, that lets them study in areas where they'd like to live. Another pathway is what I talked about was the life stage pathway. So making it easier, you might be at a different stage than an 18 to 22-year-old. You might be 35, you might be 40, you might be making career changes. So that's that life stage pathway. But the other interesting pathway that you talked about was providing pathways, I'm summarizing this, that essentially create a sense of belonging. So learning with people who look like me, who think like me, who want to study the kinds of things I'm interested in studying, the environment, sustainability, climate change, whatever those things might be. Is that a fair kind of summary of what?
Yeah. I would say the biggest deterrent when I talk to students about, if they have an interest in urban agriculture, and talk to them about going into ag ed, they're like, well, why do I have to go study agronomy and farm economics and farm management in the traditional courses that are offered? Because someone who's going to go back to the city and run a farm in the city is going to study agriculture in a very different context. And so they feel like outsiders because of the curriculum that they have to study, and culturally they may feel like outcasts or different. So I agree with that summary.
Okay.
Tyler raised his hand. Go ahead, Tyler. Tyler, you're muted, maybe.
My apologies. Can you hear me now?
Sounds good.
Okay, sorry about that. I was just saying, Luke's, you're spot on with that perception. And if you look at a lot of the universities in and around Chicago, Loyola University, DePaul, Wheaton, they're doing a lot of specialized things around sustainable urban agriculture, local regional food systems, environmental sciences in relation to agriculture. So I just wanted to kind of emphasize that I see a lot of that sense of belonging aspect that you're talking about, Anna, as a really prominent driver in youth today, especially thinking about that next step trajectory for their education. And it seems like some of those universities are really excelling in that urban environment, taking hold of this aspect of really concentrating on that kind of place-based aspect, if you will, concentrating on city systems, community systems, with that context around environment, around climate, around resiliency, around urban agriculture, local regional food systems. So I just wanted to kind of emphasize on that. Yep, food justice, food
community
equity.
health.
Yeah, a lot of it's moving that way.
Yeah. Karen?
Yeah, I just wanted to add just a little, as we further explore this topic, it might be nice. We've partnered with the Rural Schools Collaborative, and they have a whole I'm a Rural Teacher campaign. And I know it's not 100% ag focused, but, Luke, as you talked about, like the transition from urban to rural life and that challenge, that might be a really good group for us to engage with and partner with on some of these. They're pretty well established in Wisconsin. That's kind of where they got their start, but they've relocated their offices to Monmouth, Illinois. Compier's worked with them on a couple projects, but they do have like a nationwide perspective on this urban or on this rural teacher, and as well as the place-based learning is really something that they work with. So that might be worth exploring.
Thank you. I know Mindy's got her hand up too. Mindy, you're still muted. You might need to reset it. Mute and then unmute again.
Got it. I am calling in on my phone and doing video on my computer. So that's what double muted means when people talk about being double muted. So in case you all don't know. So I just was saying that I'm very happy that we're still discussing this topic, and this topic is near and dear to my heart for many reasons, because I was not in an agriculture program when I was in high school. I am one of those, non-traditional ag teachers where I didn't wear the blue jacket when I was in high school. My first agriculture class was when I was a junior at the University of Illinois. So very different than most people. I fell in love with agriculture. Now, part of that is because I did come from a very rural community, so I didn't have that transition from an urban setting to a rural setting. But I think that there are things that we can do and we can target and look at folks. There are a lot of people that are leaving their jobs right now. And so there are a lot of folks out there that are going to be looking for a career change. And so this is the time to amplify our need for passionate individuals. The other thing that makes me unique in my story is that I was in ag education for about 15 years and then left. And then Tim has been in ag education as well, my husband, for 17 years, and he just took an administrator job. Now, it's very important that we have administrators in those roles so that they can support local ag teachers. But my point being is those numbers, 15 and 17, are really close. And so how long do our teachers stay in the teaching profession, and when do they leave, and why do they leave? And I think from my perspective and Tim's perspective, a lot of it is time, the time that all of this takes. I don't know what part you cut out. I don't know how you change it, but if it were an easy answer, we would already figure out the answer to that question, because we have time and time again folks leaving because the amount of time that it takes. When I was teaching, I was telling my girls that they couldn't participate in 4-H because I didn't have the time to take them and help them with their projects. And that was one of the driving forces for me leaving teaching agriculture. And we have a lot of women teachers, right? And I was very supportive. I have a mother-in-law that was there all the time for us. Lives right next door. And not many teachers have that. So I was very fortunate, and I still felt like I was providing shortcomings to my children. And so there has to be, that's a core change in values in work-life balance that we have to address in ag education, right? Like that, we have a lot of women, and men are just involved. My husband is just involved in raising our children and doing things around the home. And there are many things that we're a part of now that we were foregoing that we did not do when we were both teaching. And many people think being an administrator, you're going to have more nights and evening things. Tim's actually wondering what he's going to do with all of his time as he becomes an administrator. So, I think that is something really big that we have to think about, because these kids that we want to be ag teachers that are going through our ag program, they're looking at their ag teachers and they're thinking, I want to be able to go do other things than just be involved
Mindy,
in ag and FFA.
when I talk to students to recruit them into ag ed, I give them a goal of teaching for 5 years. I'm like, try it, stick with it for 5 years, stick through the loan forgiveness program opportunities, but you don't have to be afraid to move into ag ed, that it's a life sentence, that you have to spend your career teaching. Like, no other industry expects people to retire from the same job they started with. All of you who work in industry are kind of expected to do zigzags around your industry. And we don't really have that in education. And it's hard to ask a 19-year-old picking a college to commit to a life career, because the world just isn't that way anymore.
Agreed completely, right? And so we have to think about how we can support those folks differently. But what that also does is means that we have to have an even higher rate of incoming folks. But if we have students that are seeing and and what their ag teacher is doing and the time that they're committing, and they think, well, I want to have a life outside of my job, right? Then we've got to provide them avenues to make that happen, right? So we've got to let's look at our incentive funding grant, because if you're type A personality and you're looking at that checklist of things that leaders put in front of you that say, this is what a quality ag program consists of, then they're going and they're like, okay, yep, check, 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 check. Okay, I haven't done this yet, but now I'm going to do it. And now I have to do this so I can get a little bit of money for my program. And not only out of balance for work-life balance, but it's also that application's out of balance for our urban programs. And we are at a time when people are more concerned about where their food comes from. And if this is the best opportunity that we have to tell our story in agriculture, and we don't find a way to embrace that, then we're missing out on changing that culture on how people perceive agriculture. Because this is our time. And I'm taking too much time, but you can tell I'm really passionate about this, and I really do care about keeping teachers in agriculture and supporting agriculture education in Illinois. So I'll be quiet and let others have some floor time too.
You know, Mindy, I always appreciate the comments about the time that goes into being an ag teacher, because I think we see that. You know, I think everyone in this group sees that. But then I think about like myself in the role that I'm in. I'm gone a couple nights a week and traveling and have that same struggle with work-life balance. So is it really that different than a regular industry job that you're gone, you're traveling, you're gone overnight, you know?
Yes, it is. It is much different. And let me tell you a story about, we were having conferences and preparing presentations for our customers. And one of the folks that was presenting along with me was saying, wow, we've done this same presentation 2 times today. I'm exhausted. Well, guess what? I looked at him and said, you should try being an ag teacher, because an ag teacher is giving many times 5 different presentations all throughout the day, every single day. And they're preparing those presentations for themselves. My presentations and his presentations are prepared for them by the marketing team. They don't have to do all the research. They don't have to build the slides. They don't have to build that story. It's built for them. They walk into the room and look at the presentation a day or 2 before. And then that doesn't even include the FFA practices that you have every night of the week, all year long, because you've got CDEs that are going on all year long. You've got record books that students are preparing. If you're doing it right, you're asking them to keep up with those record books on a monthly basis, so they don't have to play catch up when it comes to the record book time. And so you may have 3 or 4 competitions that you're preparing for all at once. So you've got kids, one group of kids in your classroom that's doing ag sales, and you might have another group of kids that's doing livestock judging, and you might have another group of kids that's doing parliamentary procedure. And they're all in the classroom after school. And by the way, you're probably competing with sports. So you're waiting until 5:30 when they're done with sports to have your practices. So what are you doing during that time? You're grading papers and trying to keep up and figure out what the presentations, the 5 presentations that you're doing tomorrow are going to be. And so it is, like, it really is. I've traveled with work, and I still, and we have a lot of, we have workload that is significant as well, but it's not, I don't come home every day physically and mentally exhausted from my job anymore. I did when I was teaching. I did. My feet hurt every single day. My head hurt every single day. And I loved teaching. Like, I loved it. It wasn't that I, didn't like it. I loved it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gone through that. So it is different. I'm not saying that we don't have an industry, we don't have heavy workloads, but it is different. It really is. It's demanding.
Well, and I don't want to cut the discussion off, but thank you for the comments. And I guess my perspective, I have been in the classroom since I was a student, but I liken the the ag ed programs in the state, especially the ones with single teachers, is kind of a sole proprietorship. And, I on the farm, you sort of look outside, and I tell my wife often, I look outside and I always see something to do. Something could be better. And I think a lot of the ag educators feel the same way. There's always an opportunity to help a student advance the program, be better, compete. And I think that's a mindset that's really good, but it can be very challenging. So certainly the importance of this discussion is in a lot of ways, number one, finding ways to align ourselves to create educators in areas that we're not, in communities where we're not, I don't want to say relevant, but we're just not at this point. And also to build the backstop for kind of a non-traditional teacher. So even if they are in a school like my kids go to with 400 or 500 total students in the district, that they can get kind of a non-traditional backgrounded person that's interested in ag education in a different way. We've got less than 10 students in the high school that come from traditional farms in a very traditional production ag area. So I think we're filling a need that really is a greater demand than we anticipate right now for all of these reasons. So and we'll have a chance to revisit a little bit of this sideways through the ag food natural resources discussion that we're going to have down the agenda a little bit. So I don't want to cut it off. Thank you, Dr. Ball, for your participation, and certainly weigh in as we get into more of these topics. And Mindy, thanks for joining in on that as well, and Karen. So it's all right with everyone. We're going to move on to point number 4, the discussion on the ag education curriculum. So Dean, if you, want to sort of kick off kind of where we're at with the MyCart discussion, and Mindy's on the call as a representative from Cutting Edge Curriculum.
Right. So just to give everyone a little bit of brief as far as where we're at this point, is that we knew that the contract was going to end for the annual subscription for mycart.com. And again, mycart.com, again, as you know, is where all of our 1,035 lesson plans, and then you multiply that again threefold by the number of e-units, the number of PowerPoint presentations that we have, and that's where it is housed. So again, that contract that was written back in FY17, just briefly, was $12,500 per year. So again, we knew about that, and there's new ownership with mycart.com, and again, that is Cutting Edge Curriculum. And again, we'll have Mindy explain a little bit more exactly what Cutting Edge Curriculum is as far as a not-for-profit. But the expiration date for the annual subscription did end on May 31st. So we're in a situation that current ag teachers, student teachers, university personnel, colleges, even us as far as FCA staff, do not have access to our curriculum because it is on mycart.com, and that subscription has ended. So we have been negotiating and trying to. So the difference that we are right now is that there was an offer of $38,500, and then the counter offer then was $90,000. So basically, we're between $38,500 and $90,000 as well. And again, this group, along with the Illinois Committee for Ag Education, has suggested that we have a statewide subscription that would be free, complimentary for all schools to use. Again, that's what we're trying to do. Your leadership then, Alan and Mike and Greg, and then Doug Hanson, then as well as your curriculum chair, did send a letter then to Illinois State Board of Education, Dr. Ayala, after the subscription ended, encouraging Illinois State Board of Education to work with and trying to negotiate that then as well. So also then as recent then as of Tuesday, then without a statewide subscription, CEC then has put out an email blast to schools and teachers saying that if you did want to have access, that access on an annual basis would be $1,350 per school. So And again, if the statewide subscription was solidified, then there would be a money back guarantee to those schools that they would get that dollar amount back then as well. So I had a meeting with Marcy Johnson and Jennifer Kermis. Both individuals are in the administrative leadership within Illinois State Board of Education, within Career and Tech Education, just above Andrew Klein. And again, with Andrew not being available, he'll be back again on Monday, has been a little bit of a challenge for us here yet as well. But again, their suggestion is, or their recommendation is that we continually negotiate, but it is a large increase over what we have had in the past, as far as moving from $12,500 to potentially $90,000 per year. So that is where we're at. I know that your ILCA member, Dan Swanson, also had a meeting with Illinois State Board of Education representatives. And I don't know for sure, Dan, I know you have an 11 o'clock time that you maybe need to leave. If you would even like to share as far as some of the information that you've had with various individuals.
Thank you, Dean, and you covered the information quite well. I really don't have much else to report except that ISB has really dug their feet in pretty deep, and had a discussion with Jennifer Kermis, Marcia Johnson, and they're still in discussions, I guess, but it seems to be quite an uphill battle with them. So I really don't have much else, Dean, but thanks for your comments.
Get unmuted. And I know we've talked about this, and Mindy being an ILCA member and then also being on the not-for-profit board, Mindy McDermott, if you would like to maybe, Mindy, just kind of explain to the group as far as what cutting edge curriculum is, that it did take ownership of CART in the summer of 2019, and then maybe even include some of the futuristic goals of the corporation.
Yeah, so thank you, Dean. Thank you, everyone on the call that has been engaging in this conversation. I do appreciate the conversation. I know that there have been a lot of changes around CART and CEC over the past year and a half, 2 years. So first off, to start from the very beginning, Dan Pentney, who was the president, CEO, owner of MyCART or CART, did decide to retire. And I know that many of you have been involved in discussions as to what would happen to CART as Dan did retire. And so folks from this group came to myself, Jay Runner, and Doug Falk and asked us if we would be willing to serve as directors, board of directors for a not-for-profit organization that would be created to take over and resume the activities of CART. And so that entity was created. It was named Cutting Edge Curriculum, or CEC. And now Cutting Edge Curriculum does own CART. I will say that Jay Runner, Doug Falk, and myself are not owners of this organization. It is a not-for-profit organization, so it is not owned by anyone, but instead is directed by a board of directors, Doug, Jay, and myself, okay? And so I think there's been a lot of misconception that the three of us are getting rich through this initiative, and I will tell you that we are not doing that at all. None of us sought out this opportunity. We were asked, and because of our passion and desire to see ag education continue to thrive in the state of Illinois, we did take on this initiative. We've faced several challenges, and one of those being that there in the past, when Dan Pitney was managing the business, there was a curriculum project every year. And then in 2018, 2019, 2020, there had not been a curriculum project. The way that Dan had structured the business was so that those curriculum projects would help subsidize the cost of the Illinois subscription, okay? And I will tell you that the $90,000 that we're asking for does not cover our expenses for the subscription for Illinois. I'll say that again, the $90,000 that we're asking is not going to cover the expenses. So we did not arrive at that. The 129 does, okay? But the 90 does not. So I'll just let you, pause on that for a minute. But one of the things that we looked at when we were not consistently getting curriculum projects, that we had to restructure the business. And in order to restructure the business, we completely broke the curriculum business and the subscription to mycard.com into two arms of the business. And so the curriculum business is no longer going to be subsidized by the subscription business is no longer going to be subsidized by the curriculum side of our business. We were looking at that as we, Dan, Doug, Jay, and I took over. But when we also met with folks at ISBE, they flagged that almost immediately. Why was that arm of the business subsidizing the other? That they didn't think that seemed to make sense. We completely agreed with them. And therefore, we did make that change. And they made that recommendation to us. So that is one of the reasons why we have this shift in the cost of that subscription. So I hope that helps clear out some of that confusion that we have had. The other thing that I will point out to you is that over the past 18 years, CART has paid a royalty to ISBE in that royalty account that has over $1 million in that account. That royalty on a yearly basis, or on an average over the 18 years that we've been paying that royalty back, has been $60,000. Over $60,000 is the average. I think the average is $66,000. So let's be conservative and let's take $60,000. So if you take that $60,000, that's going to come back to that royalty account. The net of the cost of that subscription is going to be around $30,000 and not the $90,000. So I think that if you look at those mathematics and the fact that ISBE has directed Ag Education to spend down the line item, I think that makes sense, that money is well spent. We just talked about the time that teachers are asked to spend. One of the things that I will tell you is that as a teacher, I did not use the curriculum and the website on a daily basis. Okay? I don't think anybody does use it on a daily basis. But the foundation of a lot of the lessons that I did come from that curriculum. And when I needed help, when I was really pinched for time as a teacher, that was my go-to. That's where I went to find help when I was in the classroom as a teacher. And so the time savings that we believe teachers talk about when they talk about the mycart.com teachers is the value that service provides. And Dean, I'll stop there and allow questions or anything that needs to be brought up or that you feel I need to additionally address.
This is Warren. Dan, I have a question for you. You said that they had dug their heels in. Maybe I missed something there, but can you explain why they've dug their heels in?
Yeah, just as Mindy explained there, they don't quite understand the math in the problem. All they visualize is we used to pay $12,500 for a service that now we're being asked to pay $90,000 for. And, I've addressed the $67,000 in the royalties, and that the cost then now is a lot less than what their math, it's not 12.5, but it's around 23,000. But they don't understand that, as Mindy outlined, that they have concerns about doing that type of contracting business. And they dug their heels in, and pretty much as last conversation I had with them is they were going to come out with an RFP and possibly a new contract. And I cautioned them that, the contract they have in front of them may be the best case contract that they may even get. So they've dug their heels in. They're not willing to accept the $90,000 offer.
Was there any discussions at any point in time about a multi-year contract and any kind of a incentive to do a multi-year contract instead of an annual contract?
I certainly didn't have that discussion. Dean, did you have any discussion like that, or Mindy?
I did
No,
not.
at this time, we feel like it's best for CEC to proceed with a year-to-year contract, especially with the instability that we're facing.
And one thing of interest I pointed out to them was, this is a nonprofit business. It's a nonprofit. CEC is a nonprofit, which means they're not in the business to make money. So their bid is what it's going to be for their cost to do the job. And I think that kind of caught them off guard. They had not realized that they were a nonprofit organization.
They caught the ISBE off guard, that they didn't realize that?
Correct.
Okay.
Jennifer Kermis and Marcy Johnson. Because I asked them first a question and the answer.
Well, I appreciate hearing that, but they've heard that we are a not-for-profit organization many times, and we've provided written documentation to them that we are not-for-profit. And actually, as we are in negotiations with our new memorandum of understanding to sell the curriculum using our subscription outside of the state of Illinois, that is one of the reasons why that document, and we're still waiting for that document from them. They've said that the only change is the name from CART to CEC, but it's been since before January that we have, they've been talking about that document and haven't been able to get it back to us. So there's uncertainty on our side there, because if it's only a name change, then why does it take that many months to get that document through their legal team and back to us? So they have been given that information. Either they didn't pay attention, or I'm gonna err on the side of giving them the benefit of the doubt that they just overlooked it.
Dean, how many schools would you estimate use the program? In other words, if we're talking about a net cost of, I think if I'm following the math right, $23,000 approximately, divided by 1,350, that sounds to me like it's only like 15 or 20 schools that would have to use it to be the equivalent of the per school price. Do you have any idea at all how many schools use the program?
So you first asked there, the $1,350 as far as what CEC is proposing right now, they would have to have 67 schools sign up out of approximately 350 that would recoup $90,000. So 1,350 times 67 is $90,450. Now, your question as far as usage, so we do have this data from CEC and their website that for the 2021 school year, 432 of the 460 ag teachers, about 94%, logged into mycart.com. And the average login per teacher was 102 logins.
So in other words, it makes a lot more sense from a fiscal perspective to do statewide subscription because it's going to significantly lower the cost per school and per user. So Dan, I don't understand why there's resistance other than kind of what Mindy said. Somebody's not understanding the total picture. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, you're spot on. They don't, I think, understand the total package deal. You know, it's like they see it as yesterday they were paying $12,500 for this service. Now CEC, a new company, is going to charge us $90,000. What are we getting more for that $78,500? Is there concern? Would you say that's pretty accurate, Mindy?
Yeah, I think that probably is accurate. And the other thing that I think that they're not thinking about is that, you know, they think that we're giving access to the curriculum that they own the intellectual property to. But the subscription is for the features of the website. Absolutely. That curriculum can be placed on another website and made available to the teachers. But it will not include the ability to create a customized course outline for the school with the matrix that aligns that document to state standards. So whenever an administrator asks an ag teacher, what state standards are you teaching in your classroom? Within minutes, an ag teacher can go to the website and have that document available. They select the topics that they teach, and then a document is created and spit out for them that they can print and go down to their administrators with. While other teachers, when they're doing that, they're spending weekends, nights, and many weeks doing that, looking at each lesson, looking at the state standards, looking at the objectives for that lesson, and then identifying and taking down each of those standard notations. Additionally, the quizzing system that we have, the questions that are created along with each lesson are already loaded. The teacher has to go in and select which questions, and if they want to add a question of their own, then they can add that question. And by the way, when the kid hits submit, that quiz is graded. You can also use that as worksheets if you want to on a daily basis. Add a quiz in there. The other thing that is very time saving is, let's say a teacher wants to talk about a specific topic. Let's say they want to talk about network statements. They can go into the search and they can type in network statement, and there will be a list of the lessons that talk about a network statement provided for a teacher. No more digging through their files, no more trying to find it on their own desktop or laptop. All of those things are time saving. The other thing that's really cool that I didn't mention about the quizzing system is they can get a report about that quizzing system, and this works really well with the student learning objectives that teachers have to show. They can send a pre-test and a post-test. And right there, they have their student progress that they need to show for their teacher evaluation. Very easy. The other thing is, let's say that the teacher looks at the report from the quiz and they see that there is a question that was missed by 67% of the students in the class. That, as a teacher, should say one of two things. Either I didn't hit that topic very well as a teacher and I need to revisit that topic, or that question is written poorly. And so I need to take a look at that question. And so that's hard to do whenever you're given pencil and paper tests. And there is no other system in Illinois that has those agriculture questions tied back to the lesson, or that have the ability to provide that reporting back to the teachers.
Hey, I'm gonna
I don't think
interrupt
they're
here.
recognizing that. Yeah, I don't think they have that. I don't think they understand the functionality of the website.
Mindy, I'm not in any way, shape, size, or form questioning the usability, the functionality of the system, okay? But to Dan, this is a question by Tim. You know, if I was sitting there and someone asked me to increase the amount of money I'm spending by 700-800%, I would need I'm talking purely from a political perspective, some sound bites that I could use that would allow me to defend myself against someone who would challenge me about increasing the amount that I'm spending for this curriculum by 700, 800%. Have we provided these folks with any kind of sound bites or any information that says, here's why it makes sense to do this, so that they can sound informed and logical and reasonable to someone who's going to come in and question them? Because quite frankly, the state of Illinois is being questioned on everything that they do and what they've spent. So if someone's going to increase the amount that they're spending for something by 700-800%, they need to have a valid reason and something that's soundbite worthy for whoever questions them for making that decision. Have we done that for them?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I know Dean, I'm sorry, go ahead. Somebody else?
I was just going to say, Warren, I didn't take your comments as that. In fact, that's what I was trying to do, was help provide those sound bites as well. And yes, we have provided those documents. Dean, I think, has some of that information, but I will go ahead, Representative.
Yeah, so I know Dean has presented those. Dean's been working tirelessly on this. I used a lot of what he had shared with me as far as those types of sound bites of it's a return on the investment, and a product that is free today may cost our schools money tomorrow. Is not the direction I think we want to go. And sure, they have to have justification, and I think Dean has provided a lot of that. And I mean, they're just Jennifer and Marcy, like I said, they're wanting to know, and I think it's been provided, but may not have been provided in a format they understand. I can circle back around, and maybe Dean and I can hold a discussion with Jean or Jennifer and Marcy again, and their boss, Mr. Mateus, and see if we can move something, especially when Andrew gets back on Monday. We can maybe get something put together for all of us to once again have a meeting. But it's a good question, Warren. Just as all of us, when our expenses go up, we ask why, and certainly the ISBE surely has to protect their dollars too. I think we've provided a strong argument to them of what has changed, but I think they're just reluctant to accept our response at this time.
Couple things just as we sort of kicked in on IK and how I responded as chairman of ILK. At our IK meeting in May, we knew this was coming towards the end. We were hoping to get some resolution to this. We're still asking for clarification from some unknown person at ISBE about how to spend those royalty dollars. I mean, this fits. And, we provided some ideas about, hey, look, if you don't like writing the big check, how about we just write the net check, the 23,000 or whatever. That doesn't sound so bad, instead of moving those dollars back and forth. If they can't do that math, which I don't think they really can, since they don't have their hands directly on that royalty account. And we couldn't get anywhere with them to get past that. And that's on IK. And, we know we can spend the royalty money for curriculum development, things like that. And for years, we've been asking for someone to tell us how we can use that, because we're being told to spend that money. And, I wouldn't consider this a frivolous way to spend it at all. But I mean, the thing I found most troubling was they waited till the very end of the contract to really say no about this, and to put teachers in a position of not having a tool that 95% of them have accessed more than once during a very challenging year. And I assume we're going to have some up and down situations in the coming year with remote learning and other issues. And, the alternative is we're going to slam it up on the website during the summer. So you're sending teachers back to the classroom without a tool they're used to using, with a tool they haven't used that may or may not be completely ready by the time they hit the classroom, with however many new teachers or people coming from other programs or changes within, the classroom. And that's, to me, the most troubling part of it. Obviously the dollars were challenging. They were challenging in January when presented to them. And we've provided guidance, leadership, and ultimately pressure to to do something and even an avenue to spend the money. And if they don't really want to go with this going forward, don't pull the pin on it at the very end. Get by for the year. COVID's been an excuse for 99% of all the extra money spent everywhere. And this was a drop in the bucket. And again, I'm not advocating to waste money in their mind, but they didn't have the solution in place when they decided to walk away from this thing. And that's why we continue to apply pressure to this. And I think, I'm not in the classroom. The functionality thing I hear, I don't experience. But ultimately, that's kind of where it comes into us, I guess, as advocators for ag education and industry that gets to look backwards into the classroom is keep things working for teachers so that it isn't disruptive. So that's a little bit of my editorial on that.
So,
And do you think that we explain to them the uproar that would be created, the negative publicity that would be created by the school systems and the teachers if it's not approved?
I think we've tried. I think, I don't know if the ag teachers' voices maybe have been heard well enough yet. I think ISBE feels that, well, we're not, I think talking with Jen and Marcy, they just don't see the impacts of what this means. They're looking at the dollar and cents, not looking at that second, third order effect, what this does mean to the classroom.
Yeah, I mean, the thing, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, Dan, I didn't mean to talk over you, but I mean, they didn't have an alternative with a dollar amount, which was really troubling to me. They don't know what it's going to cost to do what they think they're going to do. So they don't even know if they're saving money. Is that right, Dan?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said with the RFP. If they're going to come out with a request for proposal, is that actually going to be $90,000 or could it be even more than that? CEC may be the only bidder and they come in at 129,000. I mean, I don't want to put any words in anybody's, but they're going to lose money on this.
But politically, they could say, hey, we put it out for RFP and this is the best deal that we got. It's still CEC. So, politically, we've protected ourselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Dan was, that didn't come up in my conversation yesterday. Was that an RFP to do a new website for the curriculum? Or what was the RFP?
RFP was for a new contractor.
For the website for the curriculum?
Correct.
See, that'll take a while to get done. Because you'd have to put the RFP out and then you'd have to develop a website.
Right, that's 3 to 6 months.
So I can speak a little bit to what the cost is out there for curriculum. So that's what I do at Climate, and we actually sent out a request to a company to help with that. A company that has a background in agriculture and FFA. Some of you may know Seth Durner. He was the national FFA officer, and he owns that company called Visaic. And I would equate the project to it wasn't on a website, but it would cover about 50% of the work that we're doing on the Ag Business Library, and the cost was double what we asked for the Agribusiness Library for half the amount of work. So
yeah,
I do feel confident that, I do feel confident, and that's part of our rationale in how we are proceeding as a company, or not a company, but as an organization, in providing the information that we have.
Yeah, and Mindy, I'm not questioning anything you're saying, any shape, size, or form, but from what Dan has said and Alan and Dean have said, this sounds like this is a political decision, a political process instead of a dollars and cents and logistic decision. So that's why I was
I appreciate
those
all your questions.
alternatives.
Yeah, I appreciate your question. I honestly, I kind of like to love to see them put it out for RFP, so then they would know exactly that we are not trying to take advantage of anyone, but we are trying to cover our expenses.
Dan, going back to you, will this committee approve a 1-year deal while they do the RFP, just to be sure that the material continues to be available while they're looking at alternatives?
Well, we'd have to go back and ask them that. They did do a $2,500 extension through June. I believe the contract actually ended the end of May, and they've done a $2,500 extension till June. And certainly something we have to investigate with them to see if they continue at least providing the services until something else is in place. Because
Or-
it's disservice if they don't.
Yeah, to give them some cover, we might say, do what Alan suggested, which use those funds, what that $1 million that you mentioned, Alan, and just say, hey, this isn't gonna increase the budget or cause any problems. We got this alternate sources of funds to use on a temporary basis until you get the political cover that you need with an RFP.
Or we asked for that at IK in May, and it was a really awkward question because they told us that someone at ISBE knew the answer to this, and when we asked who that was, they couldn't answer who that was. So it was kind of a strange situation. They want us to spend the money. Somebody there knows how we're supposed to spend the money, but nobody's able to identify who that is. So I'm not sure if the doors are locked in a few places or what's going on, but
yeah.
facetious. But that was kind of the quick answer. Hey, look, we got this money over here. Use part of it. Dean had funds available that would have covered a portion of that. I mean, there was sort of a bid there for what they were willing to let be used, and easily could have been covered or something, but not quite what I'm used to when it comes to negotiating, I guess.
Well, it sounds though like you all have already tried everything that I've suggested, so I'm late to the game. It sounds like.
No, and I appreciate that. I mean, that's kind of real world stuff for I think most people, and I don't live in that world, so but I think we're asking for that.
It might take a smaller group of you to help the negotiation process to just have this discussion, because Jennifer Kermis, she mentioned yesterday, and maybe she mentioned this to you, Dan, that she's not a business person, that she's an educator. And I think hearing from you instead of just hearing from us will help leverage, hey, this is taking a lot of my time. It's taking a lot of this time from this committee that we could be doing a lot more things. Let's just solidify 1 year and revisit this and discuss after the 1 year.
Well, Dean or Alan, if I can help, I mean, as a former ag teacher and as a banker, I understand both sides of that equation, teaching as well as the financial side of it. So if I can be of assistance, let me know.
Yeah, Doug, you've had your hand up for a bit.
Appreciate that, Warren.
Yeah, I guess I would just like to be extremely direct. So when IK got dismantled 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, in that process, part of it, I think, there's people who came into State Board of Education that didn't fully understand how IK and LK work, but there's people who just thought it was a good old boys club, and that we were just doing what we wanted. We weren't following the Open Meetings Act. We were just doing what we wanted. Now, we were praised for years about how good our ag kids looked and sounded and everything. But the reality is, for roughly 27 years, there was a curriculum project every year. Then that means that Dan and his team created the curriculum and provided free delivery to our ag teachers, or $12,000 charged. Well, now things have changed. They think it was the good old boys club. They wanted to break that up, which they did. They think that CART needs to differentiate the difference between building curriculum and having a platform to deliver it. So Mindy has done exactly what they asked. And now that she's done exactly what they asked, they don't like the answer. Because the answer is they've gone 3 years now with no curriculum, but free delivery, $12,000. So now CART CEC has broken this up, and they're saying, okay, we want to make sure when we're doing an RFP for the next curriculum project, there's no free delivery attached to this any longer. So CEC should be able to provide our ag teachers a cheaper curriculum because it's going to be the true cost of the curriculum. It's not going to have free delivery attached to it. So what they're not getting to see, they're seeing the 90,000 because we're so slow to get our RFPs out. They're seeing the 90,000. They're not getting to see where CART's going to necessarily price the building of curriculum compared to other businesses that are going to be doing this. And as a few of you have said here, and then Alan has pointed out, they're shutting it off in the middle of the process, and they don't have the backup plan. So that's what we've got to try to get stopped. Is we need time for this to go, and I think whoever said, can we just try to get another year? And I think that year needs to be at 90,000 because there's no reason for a new business to start and sell a product at a loss. So that's, the reality here too, is that it was Dan Pentney that was doing it for 12,000. Now it's CEC that's asking for 90,000, and it's a new business with new owners with a new approach.
So I would just like to take a couple seconds too, and also put a little bit more fiscal numbers around the cost. Okay, so using the old contract of 12,000 some, right, that we've been referencing, there were 1,035 lesson plans, e-units, and questions provided to teachers, and using 441 teachers, the cost per teacher per year was $28 for their curriculum. Okay, if you divide those same numbers into the 90,000 that we're asking, it's $204 for the entire curriculum for all of our teachers. That's per school or per teacher per year. And by the way, those do not include the community colleges and the university accesses that were provided as a part of the state curriculum. And so does the state of Illinois value their, access to their curriculum and the time of the teacher at $200 per teacher per year? Or is it less than that? I think that's a really good soundbite.
Well, but again, they're trying to cover themselves politically because they don't want to be questioned because they're spending 7 or 8 times as much as what it used to cost. So I understand all your numbers, Mindy, but to them, that's not giving them political cover.
So if you could see the first time I met Dan Pentney, the demeanor that he had, I didn't understand it until we're at this point now. And so it's tricky when you've got one customer and one provider and then you're negotiating. I guess, sort of bring this thing to a little bit of an ending, at least where we're at right now. I know, Dean, can you, I guess 2 things. There's a direct subscription being offered right now to schools that was mentioned before. So if a statewide subscription is not available, schools can individually purchase this. And either, do you have that up, Dean, here? So, the cost, as Mindy said, if you divided it by the state, would be about $200, and the in-state cost is that $13 or $13.50?
$1,350.
Right. And then someone asked, I think in the chat function, about an out-of-state cost, and the out-of-state cost is $1,800. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So they do a lot of business outside of the state of Illinois. That's what generates the royalty fund and all that. And people do pay that much, obviously, to have access to that. So, if you're not in Illinois, you're paying well above even what the individual subscription is, and that's done. So anyway, but to make note of that, just kind of have that as part of the building blocks of this discussion. And then, Dean, can you sort of, I think you're showing us what you're being charged to do in the interim as an alternative to this?
Yes, that's correct. So this is an example when the state subscription was not renewed for the career and tech education curriculum. And what I mean there is that, okay, there's curriculum for business, family, consumer science, industrial tech, and health. And that was started about 10 years ago. So as you can see, it's just on the free site, the Illinois State Board of Education, and it's in this situation. Let me hide a couple of things. And so it will come to this screen, and then a teacher, say for instance, a business teacher wants to find their curriculum. Well, they would first go to these 6 areas, and then say for instance, they pick accounting. Then what they would then have to do is, based upon the title of the lesson plan, accounting careers, and they wanted the E-unit, well, they would click on E-unit, and then they would download that, and there would be the E-unit that you can see. And again, that is basically, question? That's the electronic textbook. The lesson plan itself is the guide for the teacher, then to go through the information, interest approach, an outline. There's some worksheets and so on, and assessment a part of this then as well. And then finally, there's a presentation, which is the PowerPoint. So we are in the process of putting all of the curriculum resources that we have for agriculture on Illinois, on illaged.org, which is here, our site. And I'll just show you quickly that a teacher would log in, and I would sign in here, right here. I'd go to login. And the nice thing about this is that it is password protected. So again, that keeps the license agreement in place. So here we go. So I'm logging in. I go to our dashboard, and then down to our dashboard, we have then curriculum. And again, this is just the beginning of where we would be able to add the curriculum, similar to where it is for the CTE curriculum on isbe.net, but we would have it available here. I told Marcy and Jennifer that our hope is that we would potentially have all this available to teachers by the 15th of August. University Council has also said that they would help with this, as far as potentially having some graduate students who would help us with the download and upload. But that is our plan. If, say, for instance, we didn't come to an agreement with a statewide subscription, we would be able to have access, and every teacher then would be able to have access. They just wouldn't have the functionality of the website that Mindy McDermott just discussed. So in some of the discussion, Illinois State Board of Education, they also believe, well, let's just let the teachers decide as far as if they want that functionality of the website. And again, that's kind of where it stands right now as far as offering that 1-year annual contract. But again, there's different tangents that go into that discussion because of accessibility of all of the functionality for every teacher, the time that it might take to download, upload resources. You don't have the functionality of finding a keyword or a key term. But again, I'll kind of stop there and just say that that's where we're at with putting it on illaged.org.
Alan, or just one question, if it'd be okay to ask one now.
Sure.
Made reference to out-of-state teachers. And then how many on the average do we have out-of-state schools, non-Illinois schools users versus Illinois? What are the numbers just on the average?
Mindy, do you have to answer that?
So I don't know the exact number of teachers, but I do know that we have contracts and sales in all 50 states.
But you don't know how many?
I'm not off the top of my head. This is, again, not my day job, so I can find that information and see if we have it. But I do know we have sales in all 50 states.
Okay. Pretty constant.
Yeah.
Been staying about 50 in every state for several years. Of course, is it increasing anything out of state or staying constant in actual numbers?
Yeah, actually, we saw a significant increase this past year. Obviously, some of that is due to COVID, but we have seen an increase.
Thank you.
So you probably have had the chance to hear from Doug Falk. Doug is kind of more of the nuts and bolts guy, you know, was in the classroom, retired, and sort of was one of the first ones we tied to this project. And Doug's, I've kind of seen his traveling show as he's been out of state at some of the other ag teacher conferences, marketing and representing this. So I'm assuming Doug probably can really lay some details on all that if you'd like that information, Doug. So I guess kind of where we're at with this, you know, we wrote a letter on behalf of just the leadership team of ILK in support of maintaining that. IK, as I mentioned before, provided some alternatives on funding and was supportive of maintaining it. You obviously have heard from Representative Swanson and others. Just, you know, there's resistance there for a number of reasons, and we're really trying to sort of push through that in a positive way. The important thing that is concurrent with this is the license agreement that gives CEC the ability to sell these curriculum subscriptions out of state, and that's really, they need both, and that's a big deal. And I think at some point, just based on the way things are going, we may need to provide some support for that as well. We wanted to make note of that, and that's not quite as hot right now, but I think at some point very quickly it may become something where we're going to need to be understanding and provide some feedback, ISB or maybe some other folks to support that. I mean, when the transition from a private ownership to the nonprofit occurred a few years ago, it was done to make it better, to give better curriculum development, a better tech platform, something that people need and will want. And obviously I was shocked, you know, just sort of the basic level it provided, the amount of revenue that was created out of state. You know, in Illinois, it's been provided at a subsidized, very low cost. And those of us that it was put in front of us through IK saw a heck of an opportunity. And you know, the challenge is you've got one provider and you've got one customer essentially within the state. And we knew that could be a roadblock at some point. We're really trying to push through that. So stay tuned on this. I hope we gave everyone some context. We're certainly glad. Mindy, Doug Falk, Jay Runner are always happy to talk to us about it. They all come from ag education and have different strengths that really are going to make this a great organization, and I appreciate their efforts. They're doing it just as a volunteer effort, and I think that we've got some great momentum ahead. I think if we can sort of get through where we're at right now. So if you want to follow up, you know, contact Dean, and we can route you to whoever if you've got more questions on it, and we may ask for some more support at some point. So I'm going to keep the agenda moving here.
Alan, I'm just going to give quickly a little bit of synopsis as far as maybe next steps is that we are recording this. And I really feel that Andrew Klein is a key person in this whole process as far as understanding agricultural education, also working as our agricultural consultant at Illinois State Board of Education with higher individuals than he. So my plan would be to allow him to potentially look at this recording, hear this recording as far as the discussions that we have here yet today. Fill him as much as I can on Monday, even though that's going to be his first day back. Hopefully that could occur on Monday and or Tuesday of next week. And then potentially have a group Zoom call meeting, if at all possible, with him, representatives of ISBE. Mindy, I would hope that we could do that as well with representatives of CEC and myself. And I suggested that yesterday as well, as to a few individuals from the Illinois Leadership Council for Ag Education. because you have the interest in this and you are business individuals as well. Now, they did question as far as, why would ILCA members want to? And again, my response was, well, that they have an investment and they've been longtime partners and supporters of this and would like to be involved. So again, that's going to be my recommendation in hopes that we could get a meeting together next week and just, talk about what we have talked about in hopes that we can come to a solution.
Okay. See, we've got a comment up here. All right. So we're gonna move on to the next topic, and this has been an ongoing topic, and the sustaining and increasing the ag, food, natural resource talent pipeline of quality employees. Tyler has been our lead person on the committee with that, and it always draws in various people, and we referred to that before with our kind of non-traditional ag education programs. So we've got it's 11:12, so if we can maybe get 20 minutes on this discussion, and then we'll have some reports after that. But Tyler, if you're ready, if you have some updates for us, and the discussion I know is always robust with this.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. Just as a quick reminder to everyone, this is what we have is our Illinois Agri-Food Workforce Initiative. So we have a core group of companies and academic professionals representing a high school through university, as well as some community partners that are engaged in an ongoing conversation that's really focused around this element that we talked about earlier about awareness and perception, or perhaps misperception around food and agriculture related job and career opportunities. And the group is really looking into identifying unique ways, solutions to better reach and inform a wider population of students, of prospective workers in urban and rural regions alike about the vast opportunities that exist in the food and ag space, and really the multitude of different types of jobs and career opportunities that exist. So where we're at this current stage is the working group has been formulating two separate surveys that we'd like to be circulating out to two distinct audiences. One is going to be focusing on companies in food and agriculture, and one on K through 12 educators specifically. But the intent is to reach into these populations to gather input and insights about the needs and opportunities for promoting agri-food careers in Illinois. So the idea that has been generating with this working group is really focusing on how do we raise better awareness around these jobs and careers? How do we talk about the food and agriculture industry? How do we reach into populations that we're not really currently reaching into well right now? And the one idea that's really surfaced that's taken hold that the surveys are going to be a little bit oriented around is the idea of a landing page, an Illinois Agri-Food Careers website that talks about the industry, talks about different career paths, credential needs, skill sets, types of jobs that exist in the space, descriptions of those jobs, perhaps have opportunities for companies, businesses to spotlight specific types of jobs or their business as a whole. But again, the focus and scope of this is really Illinois based. And we see this as not just being a accessible website to talk about it, but something that we could build on over time, perhaps provide resources, toolkits, connections on the website in different formats. Part of it's going to be really targeted to students, youth, again, prospective workers, for them to be able to land there and learn more about the industry. Part of it could be focusing on teachers directly and really concentrating on what are the resources that teachers need to better talk about job and career opportunities that exist. And then the third audience really could be companies and have companies utilize this, individuals within HR, talent acquisition, perhaps folks within diversity, equity, and inclusion in the company. But again, provide different types of resources or toolkits for those professionals to really think about how they diversify talent pipelines, how they create inclusive workplaces, so on and so forth. So the idea with these surveys, we're going to be reaching out here in the upcoming weeks, again, to companies and K through 12 educators companies are going to have an opportunity. We're trying to reach specifically professionals within HR, within talent acquisition, management, strategy, or operations. So the idea being that, again, they're going to be able to look through the survey. We have quite a lot of targeted questions that are focusing on what are the types of career fields that exist? What are the types of jobs that you have that are opening? What new types of jobs do you anticipate that are going to be opening in the next 5 years? What are the types of resources that you as a company or professional within HR, talent, et cetera, would find useful on an Illinois Agri-Food Careers-based website? A lot of questions that focus around that. Some questions are around diversity, equity, and inclusion as well. And then for the K through 12 focused survey, we're wanting to reach both ag educators as well as non-ag educators with the intent of better learning from them. Do they have interest in talking about food and ag career opportunities? Do they already teach about food and ag career opportunities in the classroom? If so, what kind of resources are they using, tools, et cetera, learning modules, teaching modules? And then if they're not, what kind of resources would they find useful? And the whole intent of this is for the working group to then analyze the data that we get back to formulate an action plan going forward. So I think as a request, Dean, you serve on this. Rod from Brant serves on this as well. I don't know if he's on the call today. But I guess, Dean, I would ask and request from you, and I think that this makes sense, that we would include everybody that's on ILCA in a communication email that goes out for those surveys. Either if you have individuals within your company that you find it would make sense to have complete this survey, or if you have other individuals within your networks that should be seeing these surveys, it would be most helpful, because we're really hoping for a robust turnaround. We've identified over 250 food and ag companies in the state with relevant contacts. And we're going to be reaching through the ag educators through FCAE. And then we're still formulating a best plan to reach the non-ag educators throughout the state. So I'll pause there and happy to entertain any questions.
That is absolutely correct, Tyler. And Rod does serve on this, Rod Reich from Brant. And again, it's just, as Tyler said, gaining some momentum, getting some information out as far as from some of the surveys, and then potentially getting that information, especially back from the Human Resources Department, from agricultural companies, to look at as far as the jobs that are needed, which are high in demand, and then also really talking a lot about diversity and inclusion as to making sure that we have a diverse, talented pipeline.
Greg's got his hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tyler, you gave another excellent report, and appreciate very much your focus on this very much needed injection of time and energy. My question is, it seems like everywhere you walk and people that you talk to, we're all looking for people to work. So how do you imagine then, following this study, that you'll have an ability to filter kind of purposeful and maybe strong candidates to individual companies in order for there to be a stronger connection than maybe just a lead? Is there a filter by which you are thinking about doing that, or filters?
I don't think. Yeah, no, it's a great question, Greg, and certainly something that our working group will need to consider as we get the feedback. A lot of this initial survey design is really intended on better understanding how our agri-food industry is talking about jobs and career opportunities, because a lot of the challenges is in reaching and communicating aspects around food and agriculture and addressing that misperception aspect. So as for actually generating talent leads for companies, I don't think we haven't approached that aspect yet, but we have given some consideration in terms of how to integrate within a website an opportunity to connect into Indeed, to connect into LinkedIn, to be able to funnel in the types of jobs and careers that are aligning with the jobs and careers that are available in Illinois into a more centralized location. We haven't quite really gotten to that point of really concentrating on that and cracking the code. But we are very fortunate. One of our working group members has a lot of background in that aspect and is infusing some of that thought into our conversations. And I could naturally see us getting to a point of conversation once we reach past the first stage of hopefully really seeing ambition and passion for this type of effort to move forward from industry to get to that next stage of really considering how do we then translate and communicate. So it's not just kind of a landing page of useful and pertinent information, which is absolutely needed. I mean, it helps to address, again, this awareness element, but then to actually get that to be a navigable talent pipeline generator for companies, I think is something very useful and something for our working group to consider going forward.
I was part of a discussion earlier this week in a board that I'm on, and you know that obviously the focus is there for organizations to be more diverse and draw a more diverse group of applicants. And I was surprised, you know, even in companies hiring in Madison, Minneapolis, Milwaukee, Chicago, some of the ag companies just don't get the applicants. You know, it's not a situation where they're hiring who looks like them or you know, maybe has that ag background they want. A lot of these jobs within ag companies really are more technology focused, and you just want the best people you can find. So it's really a challenge. It's kind of a two-way street, you know. I mean, looking outward and getting people to look inward at them. So it's really important, the work that you guys are doing, because companies, you know, really are trying to figure this out and to be as inclusive as possible and to match up on the demographics, maybe not in the rural areas they serve as much as the surrounding areas. And it's not easily done. It's not just a matter of looking. It's getting people to look back at them.
Alan?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Go ahead, Don.
Tyler, are you done? I don't want, whenever you're finished out.
I was just going to emphasize that's absolutely right, Alan, and we're hearing that across the state. I mean, Greg, I know you know, ADMs face you know, similar you know, challenges being in Decatur and having excellent professionals in the area not recognize the companies that are in their own backyard necessarily, and the program that's developed within the Decatur schools has really been helping to excel that relationship and building awareness around agriculture and the career opportunities that exist oftentimes in our own backyards. And that's really representative across the state. I mean, we have small, medium-sized, you know, up to large-scale multinational companies all around the state, but there's a low recognition in some cases of what those opportunities are in your own backyard.
Yeah, Don?
I'd probably directed to Dr. Ball, but anyone, would the availability of more financial assistance or aid or scholarships for specific areas that a student might go to and be beneficial? And I ask it because, like, there are programs such as Jonathan Baldwin Turner Scholarship at U of I, where you can put some criteria on a person interested in ag education or agribusiness. You know, you can focus it. I assume you could possibly include things such as maybe a first generation college student, first one in their family. You know, you could put some criteria on it that I think it would be helpful in recruiting some of the what we're saying is maybe targeted population to try to get them into the labor market. Does that have any merit?
Don, I think it certainly does, and it relates though to a question that I also had that I was going to ask Tyler. Tyler, this is really good. This is exciting stuff. So scholarships, certainly college affordability is an issue for all of our institutions in the state of Illinois. In particular, our public institutions in Illinois are at a price point beyond our counterparts in neighboring states, and you know, a lot of that has to do with increased costs of benefits and health services and sort of the extra student services. A lot of that has to do with declining support for higher education in the state of Illinois and the budget impasses that happened roughly 12 years ago now. And so certainly scholarships and targeted scholarships that create these pipelines into specific careers, I think are really important. But the other, I've been thinking about this, and this was a question, for Tyler. You might have mentioned this in your comments. Are you planning on looping in the higher ed institutions on the results, particularly from industry? Is that a piece of this in your data collection?
Sorry, Anna, just to clarify, reaching out to universities for insights or translating the results from companies back to universities?
Translating back.
Yeah, so we like this to be a fairly transparent exercise. So what we're providing, and we're still trying to frame all the elements of this because we realize that there is sensitive information within the data sets that we are asking companies. So we are cognizant of that, but we do want to be able to translate the results in an aggregated form so that it is informative back to a wider audience. So we are thinking through that aspect, Anna, and certainly it's very important for our universities to be aware of what industry needs are as they're looking to align their curriculum, their educational needs for their students so that they are meeting those industry needs. So we are hopefully going to be calling out those key aspects and being able to make that transparent.
I love this. I think this is really exciting, and this will help, inform us in how we utilize our expertise, but potentially change the format. We have a format in our higher education system that about 175 years ago here in the United States we decided that it needed to exist around 3 credit hours in 15 weeks. And you do that for 4 years and somehow you're an expert in X. And I think that looks a lot like the phone book, and what we really need to look like is the iPhone. And part of looking like the iPhone is now going back to the source, going back to the individuals who are interested in these careers. That's one source, but particularly going back to the industry that's providing the jobs and seeing how we need to package this and what this needs to look like.
And we're going to be, our approach in this is going to be an iterative approach. So we're going to do this in multi-phases, anticipating that we're going to be learning as well as we go on how to better formulate the survey to get the results that we are looking for from companies. So it's going to be an iterative process over time, but we're really hoping to launch this soon. And then by the fall, we'll have some meaningful results to at least begin initiating some of our next step conversations.
All right. Well,
just would add there on the targeted scholarships, you got to be careful we're not doing something like reverse discrimination or something, but some real targets where there are needs. And like if an industry could offer some scholarship and put some criteria that you're trying to attract, but it might even be, some of them could be in a forgivable loan if you come and work and you prove to be a good employee, that it starts out to be a loan and then could be a forgivable loan if you work so long time for the company. Just a thought.
Yeah, I really like that, Don.
So I'm going to kind of put a bow on this and at the same time blindside a few people here with a request, but kind of the intent of bringing Anna on this morning for the discussion and some of our forward-looking needs for ag education and ultimately the ag and food natural resource pipeline is to get some relationships created and really move forward. And I guess I'd like to propose the idea, and Dean and I talked about this, maybe Luke, about working specifically Luke Allen, because it's his territory and he's the most knowledgeable and experienced in that area, working along with Dr. Ball and any others interested in maybe doing an outreach to University of Illinois Chicago or somewhere else. Probably that has been I guess the proposal at first about hey, look, we've got a demand here on the industry side, certainly on the education side, and the opportunity to create ag education programs a little bit non-traditional, maybe a lot non-traditional. And so if we can start that, I guess that's an action point I'd like to add in here right now. If any of you are interested, Dean, I don't know how we want to, do a hand raise or just maybe reach out or something like that. But, we want to be intentional about what we're trying to do today. Jesse's got his hand up.
Hey, Alan, and I kind of cut out with what you just said there. I was raising my hand kind of on what was being talked as they mentioned a little of things like targeted scholarships or trying to really reach. I guess I would throw something out there, and I'm not meaning to call, maybe put the State FFA Center on point a little bit, or I guess maybe throwing it to them here for a moment. But there's so many programs, whether it's CDEs, whether it's proficiency areas, whether it's agri-science fair, so many existing programs that I think would lend really well as I know the foundation, the Illinois FFA Foundation has worked to try and get sponsorships and connections. But I even throw something out there that if you identified, like I said, maybe it's a CDE, a proficiency area, agri-science, but said this is a group that, we want to connect with them, and maybe it's give them maybe give the state finalists a job shadow experience, or maybe, attach scholarship dollars to any of those, or even have something where, at the state, I use State Awards Day for proficiency awards, where you go down and you meet with the group that makes it, or we have these like targeted groups of students with interest all over the place in the state with our FFA activities. I think there's some real opportunity to network into some systems that are already present. And I just, if you think about like the food science, we have a food science career development event, and they've already got, so that identifies some students that are interested in that field that have excelled, whether it's the top 5 or top 10 or top 5 teams or whatever you want it to look like. I think there's lots of opportunity with some groups that are already being identified in that network.
Well, and I think that, bringing it back a little bit to the ag educator pipeline that we're looking for as well, we want to try and reach a little bit differently towards that. That's kind of where I was bringing the discussion back around, was to working towards now, sort of finding where the need is at to be able to identify people, if it's non-traditional students, mid-career students, things like that, to get that ag education connection brought back in and ultimately feed the ability for Luke and, the urban schools in this part of the state, maybe downstate and other areas as well, to be able to ultimately feed those students that need that. I think we're doing a good job of getting to the students that we've got within our traditional ag programs. But really where I think we want to go is to be able to sort of target those areas. In order to do that, you need industry support to start a program. In order to start a program, you need a teacher. To get a teacher, you need a college to get them to some level of the ability to be in the classroom. So it's just a big circle. We got to figure out where to hop on at here. And I think we've identified, really a pain point right now is getting to more people. And getting to more people in places that we're not at right now. And maybe it starts with educating that teacher and then, drawing that in. Industry's everywhere. I think we can tap into industry in just about anywhere in the state. And that's what we're really, really good at. But getting the people to walk into the classroom and plant the seed, and even finding the students, I don't think it's probably as hard as finding the teacher at this point. So that's my observation. But I think kind of our action point right now is we'd like to sort of engage in how do we make that move into the Chicago area, and it's easily identifiable, to create relationships with maybe a university or maybe target a few that can be that partner for an ag education, and whatever that looks like, ag education program or certificate or connection to whatever partnership that may be. And I'm not the one to do that, obviously. So, and that was the intent of bringing Dr. Ball on this morning and having that discussion, the ongoing discussion with Ag, Food, Natural Resources. It's going to be here every meeting. So, but if if there are people interested, I think it's important to do that. Maybe raise your hand, kick it in the chat or something like that. We're going to kind of keep moving here to stay on time. But Dr. Ball, do you have any comments on that? I mean, you've kind of seen sort of the back end of where we've been.
No additional comments. I would just be delighted to work with a subset of this committee to further unpack some of these issues. And I think you summarized it well when you said it's a part of a bigger set of issues, and we have to decide where we're jumping on.
Right.
But it would be exciting to talk about with folks.
Well, that's sort of been I think where our mission is heading, and again trying to find where our place is at. And that we've got industry people here, but that I think we've identified. So Greg I think has kicked on here. He's certainly in the community a phenomenal resource, and so just reach out in the chat function, get a hold of Dean. Tyler's on here, so yeah, I mean I think that we've got the energy to do this. We just need to figure out the people to connect to and bring this thing to an action level. So with that, I don't want to cut off discussion. This is going to be going on and on, but I want to move on a little bit just so we get wrapped up on time here.
Don,
is Mindy on? Don, did you have a comment? Go ahead, Don.
I didn't mean to delay it, but just throw one. Obviously, Representative Swanson's a tremendous asset to what you want to do there. Another one, some of you know, but some of you may not. Representative Mary Flowers' daughter is a graduate of the Chicago Agriculture Academy. Strong advocate for high school agriculture programs, especially like in Chicago area. We should include her, make contact with her too. I think would be very helpful. That's all.
Okay. All right. We'll keep this conversation going, and there'll be some definite follow-up. We'll try to get a string here together, and if we can kind of get a group focused from ILK here to partner, and then we'll maybe do some outside reaching as we evolve, but at least sort of have a concentrated group start the discussion. U of I is an obvious target leader in the state in this, so we want to help them take the leadership in this. So Mindy Bunselmeyer was going to provide a convention and officer election update, but I know there was another commitment. I think she was leaving the meeting on. Mindy, speak up if you're still on, but I think she's maybe got her screen on, but not present. So I know it's completely off the cuff. Can anyone provide, any of the FK staff, maybe just a quick update on what convention was this year for the rest of us, and just maybe some quick observations on that?
Mindy and the crew did a great job. I don't know if any of you were able to get out to the district sites, but they had convention in 3 different locations. Districts 1 and 2 were in Bloomington at the Corn Crib, and District 5 was at Southern. And then we did 3 days at the grandstand here in Springfield. So we can't give enough props to Mindy and the FFA Center staff. The fact that they dealt with 3 locations in 5 days and all these students and pulled off a great event. It really was an excellent time recognizing students, and of course everybody getting to be back in person amped up the excitement the convention already brings, which was a great time. So we were able to get parents and administrators and celebrate these students and navigating a year that challenged the adults. It's great to see that the students were still able to find opportunities, and huge kudos to that state officer team as well that had to spend much of their year on Zoom. It was great to see them get to celebrate their year as well.
And I think just from what Mindy said, I went back and reread her chat comment. I didn't catch all of it. I think she's doing some function with the retiring officers, and it was a past state officer from decades ago. I can't imagine this dragging on, and just the commitment they've had to make above and beyond, and still going here at the end of June and all that. So what a change. You think things get easier, technology makes every job better, but boy, the commitment that the 5 of those had and state staff is tremendous. And then do we have a list of the new officers? I don't have that in front of me. Has anyone got access to that? Or I know there was some publications about that, but obviously they did elect a new group. So we'll have, I'm hoping, the opportunity to have all of them at our meeting in September at Farm Progress Show. So that opportunity to interact and shake actual hands will be there. I know I'm looking forward to that. So thanks to those that attended. Thanks to FK staff. I know they were part of what went on and always kind of in the shadows, making things work there too. So when it's one event, it's a lot. When it's scattered out in a bunch of events, it's just unimaginable, especially to do it for the first time. So just tremendous effort. Thanks.
And I believe, Luke, you'll probably have a photo on the front page of our website, slide from Mindy, maybe here in the next few days, of the new state officers, I'm sure. Luke?
So I've got a quick question, just an outside observer. What's the status of National FFA Convention this fall?
It's a go.
Okay. So back pretty much as is.
There may be some reduced attendance, but they haven't let us know for sure as far as if they're going to limit the number of students who will be able to attend various events because of the restrictions, possibly at Indianapolis at that time in the end of October.
Okay. Just kind of a informational item. So so number 7 on the agenda here is an FK update.
Yeah, just quickly and so on, did want to mention, and again, a part of Mindy's report, we did have the Illinois Ag Teachers Association annual conference, and that was down at Carbondale at SIU. So we did a hybrid. So roughly there was 270 individuals, teachers and guests, including us, that were there in person, and then approximately another 100 that were online. So we felt that that was good. We have learned that we potentially may have to do both from here on out. And again, that'll lead to another discussion if we need to do both as far as our next meeting in September for this group. But again, teachers were glad to get out and about. Again, that's the same way with FFA convention and so on as well. So we did a lot of professional development, oversaw that. Jennifer Waters and including the entire FCA staff helped with that process. And then this week then as well, having district events and district professional development for ag teachers across the state. That'll be ongoing as well. We have a 2-day retreat with Mindy and John and Andrew Klein on July 6th and 7th, and that'll be at the Macon County Farm Bureau in Decatur. We will be talking about some of these challenges ahead for us, and then starting off a new year then as well. I do also want to report that we will have a decrease in total agricultural education enrollment of about 3,000 students. And again, our reasoning for that at this point is due to the fact of COVID and the pandemic, especially the 2 schools in Edwardsville, over 800 students at each location that did not happen this last year because of COVID at the 7th and 8th grade level. So again, our total numbers aren't in yet, but that's going to be about an 8% decrease. And again, we feel that that is only going to be this year, that we'll be back to that 35,000 number or more in the coming year. So that's just a little bit of an update at this point.
All right, thank you, Dean. So we're getting to the bottom of our agenda here. So number 8, we don't have anyone for recommendations right now for new member nominations or elections to the committee, but that is an ongoing process. So we will certainly entertain any names or nominations that anyone would have. It's really important to kind of keep the group filled and maintain our depth here. We've had a lot of people serve for a long time and others that rotate in and out. So if you have names for the roster that we could take time and reach out before the September meeting, it'd be great to keep our membership full and certainly give others the opportunity to retire off if they choose to do so. So if you have that, please reach out as soon as possible so that we can take the time to reach out, educate, give them the opportunity to join a meeting and then ultimately become a member and participate. So with that, is there anything else anyone has or anything I missed? Tyler's got his hand up to see.
Yeah, just wanted to ask quickly, Alan, are there any kind of key parameters that we're looking for new members? Any key representation that we're looking to fill?
Nothing terribly specific. I mean, if anyone has any ideas on that, I mean, it really comes down to people. So, you know, I mean, it's great to identify some weaknesses that we have, or gaps, I should say, not weaknesses, but you know, if you've got some areas where you really feel like we're missing but don't know anyone, well, you know, let's start a conversation here between the group and see who we can find. I mean, I think we're, you know, a large enough group. There's room for a lot of different experiences and industries. So Dean's got, I guess, some names and industries that are companies for sure that have been suggested before. Maybe folks we've approached haven't heard back from. I know there's some familiar names from my era that I know, and industry folks. So you know, if you've got some ideas or you've been part of these meetings for a while and say, look, you know, you just got an area here that's not representative or perspective, you know, reach out, help us find someone. If it's not you, then help us find someone to find someone. So, but you know, we'll like to try to do that over the summer here. Hopefully, as people are transitioning back into the workforce or between jobs or something. Greg, you got your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Alan. You know, I'm just looking at this list, and many of these folks would come from industries no different than those of us serving on the committee currently. So I guess my challenge and charge would be that, just as we've talked about how ag education may have a couple of different tracks that we ought to be thinking about, maybe we ought to also be thinking about some folks in an alignment about where we think that ag education might need to go, about who do we know in maybe less traditional kinds of activities than many of us are situated already. So that may be just a charge for our group to kind of think about that in a little different way as well.
Absolutely, and that's kind of the point of starting these discussions is getting us to think and look outside and bring those people in so we can be more effective as our mission changes and help adjust our mission. I think a lot of us have, you know, ideas, but really not the connections. So you know, help us formulate that. It's going to take a little while, I guess, to pivot some of those areas. So we need to be thinking about it right now so we can be moving on it as we try to enable some of these other plans.
Do we have anybody on the group that's specializes in marketing research around the food industry?
You would have Cynthia Tucker, that was just from PepsiCo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we don't get a full rank every time. So I think maybe if we can, as we ask for new members, send out kind of our current roster so we know everyone that is currently a member and how we are represented. I think that might help, you know, fill in the gaps. You know, obviously not meeting in person, we haven't had the chance to sort of recall who all we have. So Jesse asked about anyone from Natural Resources. I'm not sure at this point if we've got anybody directly. There's some suggestions here about a few from IDNR.
Hey Dean, I have worked with a marketing research group for several years out of Chicago by the name of Mintel, M-I-N-T-E-L. I'll reach out to them and see if they would have anybody who might be interested in serving.
Okay, Luke's got some suggestions. So I think probably what we'd like to do, if there's a way to, you know, sort of circulate some names in and out, you know, get an email string going or something like that, and help sort through this here kind of little summer project for all of us to connect with those we know or connect to those that know someone else, you know, and keep our group full. So Mindy, I see you're back on. We had some brief comments about convention. Do you want to do any follow-up on that? I mean, you were front and center on this thing.
Yes, I'm happy to. I am sorry I had to duck off really quick. We are doing what we call this week is what we call transition week. And we have the retiring team in all week, kind of doing a debrief and evaluation of their year and evaluation of the experience in the FFA Center and our staff, as well as past officers, working with them on resumes, cover letters, transitioning into college life. How do you hang up the jacket in a healthy way and move on? And then we have the new team in with, and they've been doing training throughout the week with National FFA, as well as the retiring team on how things operate at the office and the hot spots to eat or good places to eat in Springfield, and just making those making that transition of knowing for the new team to know that the retiring team is always a valuable resource, and the new team to kind of get to know everyone and in a space with the leaders that they're the most familiar with. And of course, saying goodbye to our old team in a way that says, we love you, we miss you, but don't go too far away. But if you need to go far away, we'll support that too. So we're just about to have our closing luncheon for that. And I had to just run out really quick. So thank you for letting me take a quick hiatus. As far as convention goes, all I can say is we are just so thrilled that one, the weather held. Two, we had so many past officers, FCAE staff, teachers, volunteers help us with all of our locations. We had 3 sites essentially. We did District 1 and 2 convention awards at the Corn Belters Corn Crib. So I have to give a shout out to Illinois Corn Marketing Board and Illinois Corn Growers because they helped us secure Corn Belters for that day. Then we were down in Saluki Stadium in Carbondale. So we have to give a big shout out to SIUC and the College of Agriculture. That was just a fantastic venue. And then we were at the Illinois Department of Agriculture, give a shout out to them, and especially Joe Kayat. He is the non-fair events coordinator. We were at the grandstand of the Illinois State Fairgrounds. Amy can attest to her work in the Farm Credit Newsroom. They were fantastic. They traveled with us, and hopefully we got all the press releases done, but she endured the heat. And as an expecting mother, I really appreciate the fact that you bared with us that whole time. You endured the heat, and her colleague Liz Harder had their baby the morning of elections on June 10th. And we were wishing she could be there with us too. But just to say that convention was an exciting 2 weeks is an understatement. The weather held. We never had a session where it actually rained on people. A few sprinkles during elections, but they subsided quickly. It did rain, and so we didn't get to use the track. So then we had to use the tunnel underneath the grandstand, which was a whole new adventure in itself. But officers did a fantastic job of not only enduring the heat, but keeping the energy and keeping things moving. We were really, really blessed, to say the least, that we were able to complete convention in person at 3 different sites and celebrate all of our FFA members. Many of you have already seen our new state officer team was elected on June 10th. Adam Loker from the Wayne City FFA chapter in section 23 is our new state president. Jayton Schaefer from the Blue Ridge FFA chapter in Farmer City, section 16, is our vice president. Lauren Moore from Normal West, hometown's Carlock. She is our state reporter from section 9. Our state secretary is Gracie Murphy from Macomb FFA chapter and section 11. They're relatively new or back to us. They're not as new now, but I keep thinking about they were a new program when I first started here at the office. So excited that they have that kind of energy and have a state officer already. And then our state treasurer is Kara Freebairn from the Senorina FFA chapter from Serena, and that's in section 7. So new team has started. They were with us at IVAT conference last week. We put them to work. And like I said, this week they've been doing training and transitioning with the new team. And next week they're completely on their own. Old team is completely retired and new team gets started. They've been working on their state theme, and we've had a state officer meeting with all of our section presidents and met with all of our section presidents, families and parents on this past Monday virtually. So we're up and running and survived convention and feel really great about that. For those of you who helped with that, many of those faces are on this call right now. Really can't thank you enough. It took many, many hands on the rope to get that accomplished. So thank you. And thank you for giving me a chance to talk about it, Alan.
Well, I want to share my condolences with the team that was just elected. I really thought that my team was the last one that was going to have to get elected without air conditioning. So we really thought we'd solve that problem 20 some years ago or however long it's been. But yeah, we sweated through it to become officers, and unfortunately everybody else had to as well in Assembly Hall. So
It's
looking
funny you
forward
say
to
that.
being. Yeah,
Several teachers said it felt like Assembly Hall. And I said, yes, it was definitely as hot as Assembly Hall. The bigger snag was they were out in the open elements too. So then we also had wind and just direct sunlight to bear with. And they did a great job. But yeah, we had lots of bottles of water, trying to keep the crew cool. But it was very resemblant of Assembly Hall days.
Well, we're looking forward to being back in a climate controlled single venue big group next year. So congratulations to all of them.
That's been a big question. We will be back at the Bank of Springfield Center next summer, and we will continue to be in one location and one spot. But we will take away some really good things from our multiple sites in that teachers really, and students and families really liked having a district session, so that as a family, you came and you saw all of the award winners from your school or your area, your conference, or kids that community or county, because they were from that district. So we'll be discussing with the FFA board, making some changes into the convention session structure based on things that we grew from with COVID. And I would say that listening to all the conversations today and knowing where we're at with FFA, there are a lot of positive takeaways that we can take away from COVID, that we can implement those into what we will transition back into what we had done before. And I think that's always our biggest challenge. And I think that's what kind of excites all of us, is we did learn a lot of good things from COVID and help us function and keep operations going. Now, how do we implement those good things into what we were already doing and keep us moving forward? So we're very excited. Thank you for the opportunity to chat.
Thanks for joining us again. Again, congratulations to all of you. And gosh, it's really different. When we got done being state officers, I think we got one more hot meal and enough gas to get us home. Mr. Wright could get us out of there fast. Great experience. You guys have come a long way. So thank you, and look forward to all the good things to be going on this summer and meet the state officers, hopefully this fall at OK when we're all back together. So
Yes,
is there anything else?
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Is there anything else? So we've come kind of the end of the meeting, the end of the agenda, and I think we're going to land this thing right on time. So Dean, any other comments or anyone else?
Do we want to have the Zoom option for September 2nd?
I think we can talk about that. I mean, if we have the ability to do it, I think it'd be good, just so people aren't obligated to do that. I know it's late in the afternoon. I see Warren nodding his head. I mean, I think going forward, it's something that would be really good if it's manageable to do. I mean, we're not always in the same locations. So I will do our best, I guess. My pledge to provide that option if we can do that. And we'll make you aware of that, so that, I mean, it's great to have everyone together, but we realize that we've all got other things that are part of our lives as well. And we can get participation for an afternoon with you for part or all of it. We value that enough to try to have that technology available. So, okay. All right. Anything else? Okay, if not, I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, Webb. Oh,
Okay, I'll take Mr. Dietz on that. Greg, would
Webb
you
will
like to provide a
second.
second?
Yes, I
Okay,
will.
All right. Motion second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye, or wave. and
Aye.
turn your
Aye.
cameras on.
Aye.
All right. All right. Thank you. Have a great weekend. Enjoy 4th of July upcoming, and we'll see you hopefully in September.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Close the room.
Yeah, hold on here a second. I'm going to try. Jeff and Kim might have, I know Kim was trying to teach summer school at the same time.
We turn the record off.
Yes.